Chapter 54. Having flashed to the top of the Great Naruto Bridge and taken stock of the situation, Naruto was now making his way towards where he could feel the foreign chakra source. Whoever they were stationary, keeping off the road but flaring their chakra evenly every few minutes. A call out for sure, and with the hint of Bija chakra in there, only one person would be answering this call from Yuzusho. Introspective for now, Naruto mentally turned to Kurama. Any idea who this is? Kurama hummed and felt out himself before nodding. It is the Matatabi. The Two Tails. Any advice? Normally she is pretty lazy, but she's ferocious and loves fire, so be careful of that. Kurama was curious however. It would take a lot to motivate that Biju into action for anything, and by extension her container as well. It did not bode well. Naruto nods at that and automatically decides any and all wind techniques were out the window. That still left him with plenty of options, though less non-lethal ones. Spotting their target, a tall blonde woman wearing purple and black Kumo-themed armor with bandages along her forearms and a red sash along her waist. She was settled in a small clearing, arms crossed and waiting for him. Dropping down a few meters in front of her from the trees, Naruto offered her a grin. So Kumo sent you, huh? Not going to go with the quiet approach? It'd probably work out better. Less damage too. He was pretty sure he and B would have been facing off, not this woman. I warned B, I won't go easily on any of you. Sighing and still wishing she was anywhere else, long beat in training kicked in. B warned me as such, but I have my orders. You already knew one of us was coming, so nothing less than a fight would suffice. And since I have complete control of my powers and you don't, I believe I have the upper hand. There was a lot to be said about a fully realized Jinchuriki. This boy was about to find that out. If your Kage wants to talk to me so badly, he should have just come himself. But, oh well. I feel like you're underestimating me, and that's a no-no. Any chance you can go back and just tell your Kage to come and talk to me himself? You know that won't happen. My Kage does not recognize containers as people. We are tools. That is all. You are to either submit and return with me, or die. Forcibly keeping the link between her and the Matatabi closed, knowing the Biju would be telling her this was the wrong way to do this, she didn't care. There were only two outcomes for this mission after all. Fight or die. Heaving a deep breath and giving her a dejected look, Naruto couldn't help but feel for the woman across from him. She had obviously been through a lot. Look. You're free to do whatever it is you feel like you need to do. But I won't be leaving here with you. Don't throw your life away for some asshole who could care less if you live or not. It was telling that they were so confident that they could subdue him, on his own home turf at that. This wasn't confidence, this was arrogance. He'd definitely be paying the Raikage a visit after his training with the toads. It would give him time to gather information. Nodding and welling up her chakra, going straight into building up her Bija cloak, Yujito gives him a genuinely mournful smile. I wish things could be different. Things could be, if you'd calm down. Think about this. No one is out here but us. Whatever they put you through, whatever they did to you. It doesn't matter out here. Chakra levels reaching new heights, ground beginning to crack and buckle, Yujito locks eyes with him. As a fellow Jinchuriki, you should know better. Our fate was sealed the moment our Biju were sealed within us. We don't get normal lives, we don't get to be human anymore. Yeah. Naruto began to prepare himself as well finally. Guess I should, huh? But you know what? Here his eyes begin to shine as more chakra begins to circulate through him. I think you need a bit of a reality check. And I'm here to beat it into you. Dashing forward and looking to end this quickly, Yujito howls with rage as the Bija cloak begins to more fully form around her. Don't speak to me as if you know how bad it can be, Konoha brat. Suddenly Naruto grinned. Gotcha. Huh? Yujito is blindsided by a clone and suddenly they were gone, the clearing left with cracks in the ground and not much else. Far away, on a lone island that was previously heavily damaged, the Naruto clone dropped a woozy Yujito on her ass while Naruto himself continued to stand a few meters ahead of her. The space they found themselves in was a wide cave with no discernible way to enter or leave, short of an opening at the top, a small 3-meter wide opening that let in natural light but nothing else. That the opening was 100 meters above them told Yujito all she needed to know about her chances of leaving that way. Standing and looking around, the rock was odd-looking. Porous and jagged, with some hints of ash here and there. She had to refocus back on her target, leaving the mystery of where they were for later. Naruto however was happy to continue to banter with her. If you want to fight me so badly, I figured I'd bring you somewhere we can really cut loose. Nobody's here but you and me. I blew this island apart once and the volcano erupted and built this massive lava tube. Well, I had to hollow it out a bit, but that's a different story. Beginning to well up his chakra much as she had, Naruto summons and dons his Okame mask, placing it over his face and smirking behind it. I'll be getting serious, so I'll only warn you once. You start this fight and I won't stop until I put you down and you stay down. Chakra cloak springing back into life, Yujito nods slowly. I wouldn't have it any other way. Just one last question. Here he points at her purposefully. What do you know about captured Uzumaki in your village? Mentally thinking back to the pens, monitoring feeding tubes and jail cells, she shakes the thoughts away instantly. You want to know? Beat it out of me. Everything not a Kumo citizen was a tool to the Raikage. Everything. Sighing and realizing that he wasn't going to get through to her, stubborn woman, he nods and raises a hand, beckoning her forward. Then come, and let's see what you've got. Learning her lesson, Yujito keeps her distance, leaping to the right and spewing blue fire blasts with abandon as Naruto nimbly dodges between them with ease. Utilizing the Nibi's fire easily, Yujito keeps up the pressure, attempting to hem the boy in while keeping the damage to his body to a minimum. Yes, he was a container, but she didn't want to provoke a direct response from his Biju. Uncontrolled as his power most likely was, working him into a rage wouldn't be good. Naruto mentally sighed as he casually flipped over a fire blast before hitting the ground and rolling under another, before performing a kawarimi with a rock formation and gaining some distance. She's underestimating me, by a lot. Something tells me Kumo thinks they have a monopoly on fully realized Biju. Naruto nods, making several dozen clones and fading away into the smoke, gaining some space and watching her fight. I mean, we aren't fully realized, so that part isn't really wrong. But you are truly powerful all on your own. And I believe by this point, if I had the other half of my chakra, we could harmonize much as she does with the Matatabi. Remember, after the toads and we play with nature chakra, we'll get to modifying the seal. I know, it's just frustrating to wait. Naruto watched as Yujito closed in with the clones in furious taijutsu, nails on her hands and feet extending and turning into claws. Watching her eviscerate several unprepared clones, Naruto whistles. Well, that's new. And deadly, better get back to it. Nodding and directing his clones away from Yujito and into the shadows of the cave's edges, Naruto dashes in while unsealing the Kubikiri. You know, this has been fun to watch so far. Sword arcing out and clashing with her nails, hardened with Bija chakra, a serene smile graces his face that she can't see. Wanna take it up a notch? Breaking the deadlock and going on the attack, trying to break through the younger teen's guard while also keeping an eye on the various clones in the shadows, the older woman scoffs, arrogant. Thinking you can take me without resorting to your Biju? Are you so scared of the Kyubi you won't even touch its chakra? Flaring her chakra and donning her Bija cloak fully, a ghostly Matatabi taking form around her, Yujito grinned. I'll make short work of you, coward. Whistling and admiring that indeed it was pretty cool, he does bring his sword up to defend himself as a powerful paw comes crashing down towards his head, legs braced and having to squat a bit, the ground below him cracks and craters. Woo, that's got some punch to it. You better put her down, or I'll never let you hear the end of it. Can't have that. Having only a second of warning as the Matatabi's mouth opens and fire begins to gather there, he leaps backwards as a hellstorm of blue fire engulfs where he was standing previously. The blast is short but instantly raises the temperature of the cave greatly, and his previous position is left as molten rock and black glass. That looks spicy. Take this seriously. Firing another blast of fire, Yujito tracks him up and away, fire trailing along the ceiling and leaving more molten rock. To think B was so worried about you. Casually making a Rasengan, he launches it into her side and watches it connect and detonate with a grin. I haven't even started, kitten, but don't worry, I'm starting to get all fired up now. Landing and dashing around her, another Rasengan was formed and launched into her other side, knocking her off her feet. Dust and smoke rise to conceal her for a moment before another blue blast of fire races towards Naruto. With a grunt, he uses the Kubikiri to fire a futon, Daitapa, into the ground that launch him away. That said, I think you're gonna be my guinea pig. I wanna test out something really cool. Yujito shook her head from where she had been rattled around and growled, racing forward to close the distance. Test? Test. We're fighting for our lives, and you want to test something. Do you have any idea what is at stake here? Claws coming down towards his face, his sword intercepts her and holds her back. Years of memories hit her, torture labeled as training. Mental conditioning, physical conditioning of every type and form. Years upon years of molding into being the perfect container and kunoichi. Since she could walk, she had been nothing but the Nibi container. Today she was a proud Kumo ninja, and she would lay down her life if necessary for her village. Whether she truly wanted to, or not. Naruto could feel it, through her actions, through her strikes. Her heart wasn't in this. Batting away a claw strike and backing away as another blast of fire glassed the ground they fought on, Naruto blew out a breath and locked eyes with her. You know. Sounds like you've had a rough time of it. We're containers. Our lives are nothing but sacrifice. More fire fueled with her chakra and rage, it briefly lit up the cave and illuminated all of the various clones watching them, waiting for something. Yujito didn't care, so long as they kept out of it. Seeing him still somehow standing there in front of her, stance calm and ready, she welled up even more chakra. I'm going to put you down. Releasing another massive fireball, she misses Naruto step and disappear. Appearing behind her, sword mid-swing, Naruto shakes his head. You sure about that? Coming down hard on her, Yujito just barely has the time to block him with her tails. Naruto grins behind his mask as the end of the Kubikiri explodes, showering her and the surrounding area with metal. Watching her be knocked back by the explosion, the massive chakra construct tumbling, Naruto felt out and considered his plan ready. So far, I think I had a harder time fighting Orochimaru. Gritting her teeth, more from the indignity of being thrown off than actually being hurt, Yujito returned to her feet with a snarl. You said you'd take this seriously. I'm nothing compared to B, or the Reikage himself. To think he was worried about you. If somehow I do fail, they're coming next. Mark my words. Nodding and bouncing the remaining half of the Kubikiri Bocho on his shoulder, Naruto can't help but lower his estimations of her. She was smart and a dedicated tactician, but she made a lot of assumptions about him because of him being a fellow container. He'd have to watch it and make sure he didn't do the same in the future. You're right. I should take this seriously and wrap this up. I have more to do today, after all. Taking a step, he was gone, a light trail of dust raising from where his foot was without a sound. Looking around frantically, Yujito considered her options. Was it a genjutsu? No. With the Matatabi's chakra coursing through her, that would be an impossibility at this point. Hearing a flutter of cloth behind her, she was already turning and raising a claw to attack, except her paw was taken off at the wrist. Sending her off balance, she gets a brief glimpse of blonde hair, before he's gone again. Reforming the missing section of chakra cloak and turning to where he had gone, she was instead impacted heavily in the side and sent tumbling end over end. Feeling like she had just gotten hit by B in his own transformation, she just barely makes her feet before the same heavy impact sends her flying in a new direction. How was this happening? There was no sound, no warning. Maybe a flutter of cloth or a flash of blue light, and then the hit came. It continued like this as well, never given a chance to fight back or retaliate. Yujito is battered back and forth within the cavern and the damage mounts up. Trying to raise her arms in front of her, another chakra arm is hacked off, sent flying to dissolve into the air. Reforming this one took more effort, and she realized with a start that she was beginning to fade. As she looks around herself, several seals she hadn't noticed have been placed on her chakra body, soaking up her chakra and dispersing it. Eventually losing control of the chakra cloak as she's sent sailing through the air again, she's treated to Naruto appearing above her, glowing eyes locked onto her and the sun at his back to cast his face in shadows. A larger Rasengan is already headed her way. Sorry about this. But you're done, I think. Launching his attack, he watches as the woman is sent spiraling into the ground with a crash. Dust and rock sent flying, he lands at the edge of the new crater and admires his work. Yujito is dirty and battered, clothes ripped and torn, bleeding from wounds all along her body as she panted and gasped for breath. He could feel her chakra was dangerously low, and considered that she was done for now. Still cautious, two clones dash in, suppression seals placed at her navel, chest, arms and legs, before they dashed out of range again. Seeing her fully slump into the ground but remain conscious, Naruto nods and begins to make his way down to her. This could have been different, you know. Groaning and doing her best not to let the tears come, Yujito accepts her fate for what it was. Sobi was right. The boy was truly powerful, even without his biju. She didn't want to think about what he could do if and when he decided to use it. Looking up into the skylight and admiring a fluffy cloud that was passing overhead, the woman let out a tired sigh. How? How are you so powerful? Lots of practice and hard work. And having a family that I've sworn to protect with my life. Bouncing his sword on his shoulder still, he idly raised it and with a white flash it was suddenly whole again. All of the various pieces from the ground reassemble and back in place where they belonged. With a flourish he seals it away before he takes off his mask and seals that away as well. Now then. I have some questions for you. You gonna be a good kitty this time? Scoffing, Yujito refused to meet his eyes as he stood over her. Do what you will. You've beaten me. I don't know what you're expecting, but I only have questions for you. How many Uzumaki are in Kumo? Mentally preparing for what she knew would be coming eventually, Yujito still answered him truthfully, several, but less than a dozen I believe. Mostly women. There are a couple males left I believe, but one is elderly and beyond use now, and will most likely be culled soon. And the other is a boy, not viable for seeding yet. Twitching but not showing his rage on his face, Naruto nodded. Any others? Of offspring that I know of? There are 5, but only one has shown any Uzumaki traits at all. The typical deep red hair. But nothing else. Yujito had heard whispers that the Uzumaki had figured out how to keep their traits to themselves with seals to protect against breeding programs. It was the only reason the older man was still alive, researchers hoping to break him and learn their secret. Naruto sighs and nods, upset that it was just as bad as Orochimaru had told them. You'll forgive me, but I'm going to have to imprison you and question you more thoroughly. Hope you understand. I can imagine what type of questioning you have in mind. Do you worst, I've already been prepared. In the end, you aren't much different than all the other Kage. I'm sure you'll either want to turn me into your own weapon or rip the Matatabi out of me for yourself. Her training had been very thorough, and she knew the politics involving all of the villages. Jinchuriki were the height of power between the villages. Walking disasters. Human weapons. They were kept to maintain the delicate balance. Collecting one by any means was normal. Yeah, you've hinted at that a few times, and while Kumo sounds like an increasingly disgusting place, we don't do that here. You won't be assaulted, raped, or anything like that. You will be treated like a real human being here. Because you are one. You aren't just some tool. Some human sacrifice. Naruto pointed with a thumb at his own chest, fury finally entering his eyes. You're a person, with hopes and dreams and desires. And if the Raikage is the one who beat that out of you, if Kumo is doing this to people it deems as tools, then it's my job to save you. I want a peaceful world, but mindsets like that go against that. Separating people as less than human is no better than slavery. And I hate slavery. Sitting down next to her with a sigh, schooling his anger after a moment and a deep breath, Naruto eventually joins the paralyzed woman in staring up at the sky. I do get where you're coming from, though my life wasn't so horrible. My village instead used my clan, pillaged us for our knowledge and our money, kept me in the dark and attempted to use me. Like you, some of them thought of me as nothing more than a tool, to be used and discarded when necessary. It was why I started this. Why I rebuilt my family's home, our village. I wanted a place where we could truly be equal, where people could come together, build a peaceful home together. And me? I would be here, to protect that peace. By any means necessary. Looking down at her, giving her a view of his mismatched eyes, ringed purple eye glowing, Naruto grinned. I know you probably don't believe me, but that means you as well. You're a Jinchuriki like me. Kinda makes us family, doesn't it? No one else but them understood what it meant to be them after all. Scoffing and wishing she could turn away, Yujito instead just sighed and finally made eye contact with him. Sappy nonsense. You truly are from Konoha. Bleeding hearts, the lot of you. They do have some good points. Come on, wanna talk about it? His eyes were finally calm, trusting. Willing to listen. Yujito could see that and wanted to puke, like I said. My life was nothing but training and conditioning. My biju was sealed inside me when I was 2 years old. From then on I was Yujito the weapon. The container. The sacrifice. For my family, my people, my village. I would lay down my life if ordered to. Here the beginnings of tears finally began to well up, mental blocks finally coming down as in her heart she truly did feel like this might be the end. I wish you'd just get it over with. Kill me, or take your vengeance and use me as breeding stock like Kumo has done with your family. Just stop this. Don't mock me with this try-hard redemption you're attempting. Even if it was the wrong response, Naruto couldn't help but chuckle as he placed one last seal around her wrist that melted into her skin painlessly. Seeing the work complete itself, he removed the rest of the seals and stood slowly, backing away as feeling and function returned to her limbs. Look. I'm not being fake about this, and I know it'll take a lot for you to believe me, but well. Here Naruto scratched his neck nervously with a smile, I really do mean it. Knowing you've suffered like this, I want to help you. So, take some time. Relax. You're gonna be stuck here for a bit, but I'm going to bring you to Uzushio. And I'm going to put you up somewhere comfortable at least. You will be treated like a person, and I will show you that things can be different. Naruto pointed at her as she sat up slowly and looked up towards him. I won't kill you. Torture you. Or anything else while you're in my custody. And when I'm done with Kumo, if you want to leave, figure yourself out somewhere else, then I'll let you go. That's a promise, Yujito. From one human sacrifice to another. Yujito finally let down her mental blocks, the Matatabi nearly screaming at her and making her wince. You utter idiot. Yujito mentally nodded as Naruto walked around and ordered his clones around for a moment. I know. I just nothing. I know you've wanted to die. But this? What the hell is this? Well, I'm sorry. You owe me a mountain of fish. And tons of naps in the sun. Chuckling and getting a knowing look from Naruto, Yujito couldn't help but sigh and accept her fate. Hi. I bow to your will, Matatabi-sama. And when we're healthy and have him alone, you're mounting that stud and fucking him into a coma. You've put me through too much for this. Doc, can we negotiate that one? Absolutely not. Please? Maybe twice as much fish? Maybe we can find some catnip? Not good enough. Oh, come on. He's like 7 years my junior. I don't care. You cut me off from you. You promised you would never cut me off. You promised. With a pang of regret, Yujito did acknowledge that she had promised the Matatabi she would never cut her off like that. Stuck inside of her, her senses were the only way Matatabi could experience the world around them. It was like suddenly becoming deaf and mute. Truly terrifying, really. I'm sorry. I can't make a promise on that one though. You're a woman. Figure it out, because you owe him a lot for forcing him to put up with this bullshit. He was willing to talk as well. I know. Bah. I'm going to sleep. Listen to everything he tells you, kitten. Irritated but happy her container was alive, the ancient Biju at least gave thanks for that. Sighing and looking up into the kind eyes of the teen holding of the strongest Biju in existence, Yujito shook her head. Your Biju just as much of a heavy-handed meddler? Naruto can't help but nod instantly, something like that. Is that complaining, asshole? 'Cause I can start playing around with your genetics again. You really want to experiment some more? Remember what happened last time? Yes, you got an ancient and nearly unrivaled dojutsu. What's the worst that I can do? You don't even understand how the human body works. 'Cause it makes no sense. Who needs a redundant nervous system? What the hell is an appendix? Why aren't your teeth sharper? It's maddening. Shaking his head and sharing a look with Yujito, he tapped his head. Mine likes to play God. 'Cause I am one. And he's super humble. Giggling, a weight lifting off of her shoulders that she didn't even realize she was holding onto, Yujito nodded. I understand that one. Sighing again, she leaned back on her hands. So what happens now? Well, you did attack me, after I offered to just talk multiple times. So there is that. So like I said, you're going to be our prisoner for a while. But beyond some questions, there won't be much else. Well, Karen will want to make sure you're all healed up, so be prepared for that. Naruto crossed his arms and tilted his head from side to side. Depending on how things go with Kumo, we can eventually release you back to them, but somehow I doubt that. But I promise, we won't enslave you or any of that other nasty shit you assumed would happen to you. You beat me, without resorting to your Biju. I'm fully at your mercy from here on. I'll play nice. And she would as well, she didn't just have to answer to him after all. The Matatabi was royally pissed off at her. I still think it was a cheat, whatever it was you did. Naruto grins and wells up a small combination of his and Kurama's chakra, red mists hanging on his form and drawing a shiver from the woman before him. I mean, if you like you can try again. I'll use his chakra this time. Gaining some respect for the boy, as even without the cloak she could tell that his chakra dwarfed hers by a wide margin, she shook her head. No thanks, one beating is enough for me I think. Her friend thought otherwise, bet he could beat you in others ways you might enjoy. Maybe we can skip the healing and go straight to the mounting. Horny cat. Hard-headed prude. I'm not offering myself to him after he just literally stomped me flat. That's the best time. Shaking his head and leaving Yujito to talk to her tenant, Naruto waves over his shoulder, you get to hang out here until I prepare your room. One of the clones will bring you. Flashing away with a more visible Hiraishin, he leaves Yujito alone with a cave full of silent clones. Left alone and dropping onto her back with a grunt, Yujito accepted that she had been thoroughly beaten. Feeling sluggish and assuming that the seal on her wrist was suppressing her chakra, she decided that the forced boredom might be good for her. Looking around and knowing the cat wouldn't shut up, she wondered if she could coax one of the clones into a conversation. She couldn't do much more than talk anyway at this point, and listening to the cooling and cracking obsidian around her wouldn't be any fun on its own. Scene change. It had been days since Naruto had left Konoha, and having to stop and eat a few times to refill her chakra, she was still flying high above the land of fire forests. Today was pleasantly warm and she was enjoying the sensation of the wind pushing against her and the heat from the sun on her skin. And while the novelty of flight eventually had worn off, she still was having fun as she finally locked on and navigated her way towards where she could feel chakra, and a lot of it. While maps weren't always reliable, she should be headed in the correct direction of Taki. Hopefully. Ahead of her she can see a cliffside with a large waterfall and begins to angle upwards to clear it. Maybe this was it? Feeling chakra surge up towards her, Naruto was surprised to see someone else taking to the skies to confront her. Confusion gave way to curiosity. Was this tan-skinned girl an enemy? She was slender, mint green hair pushed back on one side with an orange hair clip that matched her eyes, dressed in a white skirt with a white tank top and odd half sleeves on her forearms. Naruto, however, was very focused on the insect wings coming from her lower back, less so the bright and cheerful smile on her face. Hey there. Fu was a lot of things and was used to seeing weird or unusual sights. Another girl flying through the sky was very much a new one for her. It's rare to see someone else that can fly around here. What brings you to this corner of the world? Naruto nods dumbly. I was bored and exploring. I wanted to find Taki cause I realized I've never been, so I wanted to see it. That really was it, just her idle curiosity. Fu nodded and grinned, arms folded up behind her head. Well, I can't take you in today, but hey. I can talk to the guards and see if you can gain entry, if you're willing to wait, that is. See, Taki isn't really a friendly place to outsiders. Or people like them really. Someone else able to fly would probably put too many similarities to the insect Jinchuriki on the other girl. Naruto takes a moment to really look at the other girl, senses telling her more than her eyes ever could. As both girls hover in place for the moment. Oh, I get it. You're a Jinchuriki. The feeling was there, not quite human, but not human either. It was odd to be able to pick Jinchuriki out like this. Fu nods quickly, a bright smile still in place as something hopeful builds in her heart. Does that mean you are too? That's so exciting. I've never met another one before. She had so many questions for the other girl. Were others around? Did they meet up? How many had she met? Oh, she wanted to know. Naruto couldn't help but chuckle as the other girl did a good job of bouncing in place while in midair. Yes and no. It's a bit complicated. She as well, however, was curious about the chipper biju container with insect wings. I'm Naruto. Oh. I'm Fu. Nice to meet you. Naruto nods and looks around, realizing that she would have to head down soon. This technique did burn through chakra. Say. Could we hang out a bit? I'd like to learn more about you. Eyes shining, Fu nods furiously and grabs the other girl by the hand. Absolutely. Come on, my place isn't far from here, just outside of the village really. And I can actually take you there without getting in trouble. Zooming through the sky with Naruto in tow, the other pseudo-girl gave thanks that in her haste, Fu didn't seem like she would be asking more complicated questions for now. At least she had found an inn with Taki. Descending to the forest, Fu leads them to a larger than normal tree where a tree house has been built. Makeshift and looking like someone barely put the effort in putting it together, Fu still landed upon the porch that circled around the entire construction and spread her arms wide, finally letting go of Naruko's hand. This is home sweet home. My little hideaway. Welcome. Idly rubbing her fingers together at the warm feeling there, Naruko couldn't help but smile with the other girl. It's nice. She sure had a lot of energy. Throwing open her door and ushering the other girl inside, Fu giggles and follows behind her. It's the best place for me. I get to stay far enough away from the village so that people don't bother me, but I'm close enough so that I can stop in and do my shopping and take missions when I need the money. The room was rather bare. On the right and under a window that looked out over the cliff and forests was a comfortable-looking bed with a dresser at its end board. To the left was a sitting area with a couch and coffee table and a small kitchen. Ahead of them was a flat wall with 2 doors, which Fu pointed to the one on the left closer to the kitchen. Through there is the bathroom and the bath. Pointing right, she grinned wider. Through there is storage. It's usually just me, so I don't really need a lot of room. Naruko took it all in, noticing the lack of decorations, though there looked to be a few handmade trinkets here and there. It's homey. Thanks. Twirling and making for the kitchen, Fu looks at her questioningly. Are you hungry? Want some water? Or maybe tea? Naruko shakes her head, finally coming to sit on the rather worn-looking couch while Fu watches her. I'm good, ate a big lunch earlier. That boar had been filling, and as long as she didn't use much chakra, she would be good for a few more days yet. Hopefully at least. Nodding and joining Naruko on the couch, Fu turns to her excitedly. So. Where are you from? I'm guessing you're a ninja, but you don't have a headband. You're not a rogue, are you? It was only now that she thought about that, but decided it wasn't important. Naruko didn't strike her as the rogue type. Have you met other Jinchuriki on your travels? Chuckling and raising her hands at the barrage of questions, Naruko can't help but feel like she's indulging an overly excited puppy. It's a little strange. I'm from Konoha, but I left under odd terms. I'm not a rogue though, so don't worry about that. I'm not a ninja, but I have training. She was really having to think about what she could or couldn't answer about. She didn't want to lead bad things back to Naruto after all, or cause trouble for Uzushio. It was home, wasn't it? Well, in any case, she didn't know this girl at all, even if she got such a goody-goody vibe from her. I met the Suna Jinchuriki though, and the Konoha Jinchuriki. He's really strong. Like, crazy strong. Watch out for him. Did that count as boasting about herself? Nah. Fu had stars in her eyes as she nodded quickly. What are they like? Do they have cool powers from their biju? I'm happy you aren't a rogue. I'd have to take you in, and I don't want to do that. Fu pauses to put a finger to her chin and seemed to be thinking hard about something. Snapping her fingers after a moment, she pointed at the wide-eyed blonde. Have you heard that the next Chunin exams are in Konoha? Naruko shook her head. I hadn't heard that. Fu looks down to the table, hands idly twisting and fidgeting with each other. I really want to attend, but my Kage is really reluctant to let me go. But I had a dream of meeting the Konoha Jinchuriki and maybe making some new friends. I did hear that he was really special, not just that he was super strong. It sounds stupid, but I always hoped that maybe one day all us Jinchuriki could get together and be friends. Chuckling and shaking her head, Naruko does have to burst the other girl's bubble. Sorry, but the Konoha Jinchuriki is long gone. He's on his own adventure outside of the village. Naruko took in the almost downtrodden look on the other girl's face. Something within her coaxed her along and she nudged her gently. I'm sure that you and him would get along though. In fact, I think you both would be great friends. He's just as much of an excitable airhead as you. Hey. No fair teasing me. Puffing out her cheeks in a way that Naruko almost immediately found cute, Fu eventually groaned and relaxed bonelessly back into the couch. Guess I can scratch that hope off of my list. What are the odds I'll ever meet him now? Again wondering if Naruko meeting Fu counted as the other girl meeting Naruto, she shook her head mentally in the negative. She wasn't Naruto. Close, but not. I'm sure the fates will make it happen, one way or another. You really think so? Yup. Throwing her arms around the surprised girl and hugging her tightly, Fu gave a light cheer and grinned fully as she pulled away from the frozen Naruko. I'll take your word for it. Fu was staring up into her ceiling, legs kicking idly. Maybe my dream of getting all of us together can come true after all. We're all we got, you know? Who else can understand us but us? Orange eyes met mismatched blue and purple. Something interesting moving behind those eyes. Naruto almost couldn't bear to watch the all-too-trusting girl smile at her. Maybe, we can make that happen. Someday. What was this? What was this feeling in her chest? It was tight, she was stuck wanting to flee and wanting to hit something. Not Fu, no. Her mind automatically labeled the other girl as to be protected at all costs. It was maddening. But she was traveling to learn all these little things about herself. This would just be the next step towards understanding herself. Part of her felt like giving Fu some real hope, and leaned into it. You want to meet some of the other containers, right? Surely the part of her that wasn't her wouldn't steer her wrong. It was telling her to trust Fu, and the girl really looked like she needed a win in life. Fu nodded quickly, absolutely. Well. Naruto was a bit reluctant to give out information, but something within her, something calm and gentle, was telling her that Fu was trustworthy. You have to promise to keep this to yourself. This is Jinchuriki business. Just for us, okay? Seeing Fu nod quickly and mime closing her lips, Naruto couldn't help but grin. If you're really interested in meeting one of the containers, try heading towards Wave Country. It's an island to the southeast, just off the coast from the Land of Fire. You don't have to worry about finding him directly. Just make it there, he'll find you. He sounds really powerful if he can track me just by being near me. For once her smile dims just a bit, eyes downcast as she stares into her kitchen. Well. As fun as it is to dream, and as much as the village doesn't like me, I can't abandon them. I do have some people who like me here. Not family, sort of friends. Naruto nods with understanding. I won't push you. I'm just giving you information. Poking the girl in the ribs and delighting at the yelp that it provokes, the not-quite-human blonde changes the topic. Say, as bubbly and happy as you are, you have to have some friends. Admirers? A boyfriend perhaps? She didn't like that one, hands almost automatically clenching as she uttered it. Curious. Fu shook her head. No. Certainly no love interests. You should know. The villagers barely even consider me human. Fu turned to look the other girl in the eye again. You're the first person in a long while that's actually sat and talked with me. Scratching that topic off the list of things to talk about and vowing to eat a few people here before she leaves, Naruto again changes the subject. Well, I'll be your friend, so add me to the list of people who like you. Eyes wide and shining, Fu almost instantly has Naruto's hands captured within her own. You mean it? Naruto nods. Yup. Honest? 100%? No foolin'? Naruto nods again. No foolin'. We're friends, me and you. She's dragged into another tight hug, and it's easier to understand the warm feeling that fills her chest this time. Fu pulled away with a smile and held the other girl by the shoulders. You're welcome here anytime. And since we're friends, I'll call you Nachan from now on. Oh, but you can't shorten my name, But I want a cute nickname too, Caught up in the moment, Naruto reaches forward and pokes the other girl in the forehead. I think Fu-chan is good enough, yeah? Unless I start calling you Airhead-chan? Puffing out her cheeks again, Fu set about pounding her fists into a laughing Naruto's shoulder. No fair. I'm just excited. I'm not an airhead. I don't know, Airhead-chan sounds really good all of a sudden. You're so mean, Nachan. Laughing and considering that, this was probably the nicest she had ever been to anyone. Ever. Light in the dark, she guessed? Sorry, Fu-chan it is then. Looking out and seeing the sun was beginning to set, Naruto looked around and felt out for chakra. She could probably make it to the village before night fully fell. I need to go find a place to stay. Fu was already shaking her head. Nonsense. She motioned to her home. You're my friend, so you can stay with me. I want to hear more about your travels and your adventures. I want to learn more about you. Suddenly bashful as she realized what she was saying and how that might be taken, Fu twiddled her fingers together. That is. If you'd like to stay. You know. Since we're friends now. Thinking about it, Naruto goes back and forth with herself as she watches the suddenly nervous girl. Part of her was fine with staying. It wasn't like where she slept mattered at all, and at least here she was reasonably sure that Fu wouldn't try to kill her and no one else would barge in on them. Fu's home didn't seem like Naruto's in Konoha, where break-ins might have been common at one point. But, the part of her that was happy to inflict some pain on others knew that she would need some real influx of chakra soon. What she had taken from Danzo and the few animals she had caught on the way here wouldn't last her much longer. And she couldn't pull chakra from nature like part of her was sure she should be able to do. It was all so vexing. Idly she realized she was making Fu wait for an answer and the girl looked ready to cry. Oops. Guess I'll stay here then, and we can talk for as long as you like. More gentle coaxing from the part of her that wasn't her. Really? Ehem, I mean. Yay, great. Scratching her cheek and bouncing up to the kitchen again, Fu turned to her with a wink and a grin. I'm gonna whip something together so we can have dinner together and we can talk. And tomorrow you can come into town with me so I can do my weekly shopping and I can show you the sights. Sighing and relaxing back into the couch while Fu busied herself about the kitchen, Naruto mentally patted herself on the back. She had made a friend if she was much too bubbly and excitable. But this was new, interesting even, and this journey was all about doing new things and learning about the world and herself. Plus. And here she felt deep within herself, staring idly at the flickering core of what she had deemed as herself. She didn't have much more time anyway. So she might as well enjoy everything that she could. The end to her independence might be coming up faster than she originally thought. Scene change. Wavesport was always a busy place. Originally meant to be the new hub of Gado's shipping enterprise when he had taken over the country, now Wave and by extension Uzushio was making greater use of it. More than 80% of Eastern Sea trade to and from the Land of Fire went through Wave, and the country itself made a heft profit from that. Add in other deals, such as luxury cruises, passenger travel, and now, ninja dealings with Uzushio, Wavesport was nearly always full and busy. A fact that found Naruto, Tazuna, and Hinata weaving their way through the busy dock on their way to a new ship that had docked and was waiting for them. Hailing from Kiri, their newest potential citizens of Uzushio were here and ready to meet them. Naruto had deemed this too important not to meet them personally, and Hinata and the rest agreed with him. Tazuna was interested in the shipbuilders, and Naruto had asked him to come along instead of Tsunami, the older woman needing a break as far as Naruto was concerned. Gazing upon the ship, Naruto couldn't full place it. Certainly not a cruise ship, nor a container ship, but it was something in between both. A long and flat center section that looked like it could boast massive storage, while windows lined the hull and hinted at passenger quarters. Short in height and built of iron and steel, Naruto had a feeling that it personally belonged to the Zosencho clan. Tazuna whistled as they looked towards a long and thin boarding ramp being lowered to the dock by the ship crew. Seems like a fast ship. Looks like one of our cargo ships, just shorter. Naruto shrugged. Shipbuilding is their thing. I'm sure it has more tricks and secrets than we could imagine. Watching the ramp fully lower as they finally approach and step out of the main foot traffic, they watch as a mismatched pair walk down the ramp to meet them. The first is a woman who looked to be in her 30s, fair-skinned but dark-haired who had a very kind face. Dressed in a traditional kimono colored in white and blue, with a deeper blue obi, she exudes an aura of quiet sophistication. Naruto could see her as an older Haku if he didn't know better. She had to be of the Yuki clan. The other is a stern man who Naruto guessed to be in his 40s, corded with muscle, but shorter than average. Dressed in heavy and thick clothes, most likely water-repellent with what looked like a tool belt hanging off of his right side, it's easy to guess he was a craftsman. As they reach the bottom of the ramp, Naruto offers a slight bow as Hinata and Tazuna do the same behind him. Welcome to Wave. I hope your trip was easy. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. The lovely woman to my right is my wife Hinata, and this is Tazuna. The woman bows deeply while the man snorts, much to her consternation. I am Hana Yuki, current matriarch of the Yuki clan. We decided to make the trip with the Zosencho clan to make things easier on everyone. Waiting for the man to introduce himself and seeing that he wouldn't, the quiet woman gave Naruto an apologetic look. Lady Terumi spoke very highly of you and your country. I do hope we can fit in here easily. Snorting, the man has crossed his arms and looks down on Naruto, having not descended completely in order to have a height advantage over the kid. All the flowery talk in the world isn't going to convince me that this country is going to be any different than Kiri. Leaning over the rail and spitting on the ground, the man growled, I need to see men of caliber, of grit, if I'm going to consider bringing my family and resettling here. We only work with those who can and will work hard. Not use your pretty ninja tricks. Naruto can't help but nod, not put off in the slightest. The man that he was assuming was the Zosencho patriarch was just looking out for his family, something Naruto could understand. Guessing you're the leader of the Zosencho? Easy guess. Sighing and deciding not to be a complete ass just yet, Tsuyoshi decided to be a bit more upfront. The civil war done a number on everyone in Kiri. Us included. Our losses were just ignored because we weren't ninja, just shipbuilders. Faye. Final straw was having our own ships and weapons used against us. We can't stand for that, and we can't stay in Kiri, new Kage, and new direction she plans on taking things aside. Naruto nods and holds eye contact with the man. Things are much different here in Uzushio, of that I can promise you. We don't mandate how you live or do things, so long as at the minimum you are peaceful to your fellow citizens. If you want to hole away and keep to yourselves, we can respect that. If you want to continue your trade, we'll be there to help and support you. Tsuyoshi nods and scrubs a hand through his thick shoulder-length hair, dark eyes regarding Naruto intently. I'm Tsuyoshi the Keel. I'm the current Zosensho head, like you guessed. Looking around at the port around them and taking in all of the various people and workers, and barely a headband in sight, the older man grumbles, a civilian port. We can't settle in here, there's no shipyard, no facilities large enough to convert either. Naruto gains a twinkle in his eye as he turns back to Tazuna. Think their ship will fit in the cove? Tazuna nods quickly, easily. The dock is just bones right now, but it's fit for some light unloading. Fortress access is right there too. Cove? Tsuyoshi is curious, but tries not to show it on his face. Naruto, however, is waving off Tazuna's concern and ignoring Tsuyoshi's curiosity. We can set up something temporary for them in the meantime. Something tells me Tsuyoshi and the Zosensho would appreciate something with promise. Putting special emphasis on the word, Naruto looks up and down the ship, seeing a mix of crew and passengers hanging out at the rails. Can we board and set off? I'd like to direct you somewhere special that I think you'll like. Tsuyoshi considers it for a moment, or makes a show of it, before nodding and turning back to his crew. Fingers to his lips, he blasts a loud whistle. Prepare to shove off. This isn't the end of the line. Aye. Suddenly there is a frenzy of activity, and Tsuyoshi beckons everyone to follow him. Falling into step behind the broad man, Naruto can't help but grin and offer the surprised Hana a wink as the ice is sufficiently broken between the men. Suppressing a giggle, she shakes her head as they all reach the main deck and the ramp is tugged up and stored behind them. Naruto notes that indeed the center of the ship looked to be a mix of storage and open deck space, with the bridge towards the rear of the ship much like a container ship. Even if the ship in total was maybe 100 to maybe 150 meters long. Crew giving them space as they followed after Tsuyoshi, they make good time along the clean and well-kept steel deck. Tazuna notes the gritty material spaced along the deck, feeling its rough texture with a sandal. Grip tape? Tsuyoshi gives him an appreciative eye, something like that. Helps during heavy swells and storms. Part of our beliefs is not to rely on chakra if we can help it. Tazuna nods, well I'm just a civilian, so I get it. Makes work a bit harder, but so satisfying. Tsuyoshi nods, offering the older man a grin, you're a builder too, eh? You can tell, huh? Tazuna laughs loudly as they're ushered through a rounded steel door and immediately up some very steep stairs. I'm originally a bridge builder. But I branched out a bit. Naruto chuckled, Tazuna the builder has a better ring to it. Shove it brat, or I'll ring you. Tsunami might have something to say about that. Grumbling about know-it-all brats, Tazuna looks around as they come out into a long and well-staffed bridge deck. From the door they entered from, ahead of them is a walkway along the back wall full of instruments and controls that are only partially manned. To the right of that from them is an island laden with controls, a radio, and a chair which Tsuyoshi drops himself into. Furthest to the right, the front of the bridge near the windows were two large steering wheels facing a long bank of windows, which were both manned at the moment. Tsuyoshi is already barking orders as the ship is eventually tugged away from the dock by smaller tugboats. While the guests all try their best to stay out of the way at the back. Hana, however, turns to Naruto and bows quickly. I should go and check on my people. Would you say we should be on land by the end of the day? Naruto nods easily, shouldn't be a problem one way or another. Here he turns and gently takes Hinata's hand into his. Why don't you go down with her, get to know the Yuki clan and give them a bit of a primer on Uzushio? Hinata can't help but shake her head, knowing he was trying to spare her from the macho aura of the Zosensho clan head. Sure thing Naruto. Turning to Hana, Hinata nods her head, after you then. Hana offers her a smile, perhaps we can talk on the way, I hear Uzushio has some interesting customs. Hinata giggles as they leave the bridge, so you've heard have you? Conversation fading out as they leave the deck, Naruto and Tazuna are left among the bridge crew. Naruto takes a minute to look out through the thick windows, seeing the eternal fog bank of Uzushio in the distance and getting a mental picture of where exactly they were. Tsuyoshi turns to him, hooking a thumb towards the sea. So, what's our heading? Naruto shrugged, taking a look at the sun but knowing he wasn't a seaman by any length. From here, it's a bit north by northeast. Naruto pointed towards the fog bank. You're going to dive directly through the fog bank when I tell you. It takes a little practice. Tsuyoshi frowns, there's nothing but whirlpools beyond that fog. He knew that well enough. Everyone who lived on the sea knew of Whirlpool's famous eternal and destructive namesake. Shaking his head, Naruto offered everyone a grin, trust me, they won't be a problem. My wife is on the ship too, isn't she? Think I would put her in danger. That rang true enough for everyone present, and with orders given, the ship was on its way. Tazuna looks around with a curious gaze, something tells me if Karen or Anoka ever get on board one of these ships, they'll have a field day. Naruto nods, that's an easy bet. Tsuyoshi is curious about that, they interested in shipbuilding? Nah. Naruto turns to look at the older man again, more like they just love everything to do with science and technology. Tazuna can't help but rib the boy a bit more of his eccentric but talented wives. That gets a rise, not just out of Tsuyoshi, but most of the crew present as well. Wives? There are more. Naruto sighed and turned a bored look towards the unrepentant Tazuna. Yeah. In total, I have 7. For now. Forever if I have my say in it. I don't know if my heart can take any more abuse. Tsuyoshi's estimation of the young ruler goes up a tad, must keep you busy. Naruto nods, like you wouldn't believe. Below deck, Hinata was walking beside Hana as she led her to a common area where many of the Yuki clan members were currently assembled and waiting for news. When we were offered the chance to resettle away from Kiri, we hoped for a real fresh start. We had been forced to scatter our numbers, hide out and hope for the best. Here Hana seems a bit remorseful as she thinks about it. Many of us were killed in the purges, ninja especially. We're mostly a civilian population now, a few members have exhibited our bloodline, but otherwise we're all ready to settle in and live peaceful lives. Taking in the more homey wooden deck and plush-decorated corridor, Hinata nodded to the older woman, I want to assure you, Yuzushio will allow you to lead whichever life you want to life. The city would be a great place for you to settle down in right now. Schools haven't filled up completely yet and we are building new ones due to our increasing population. It's a busy place with plenty of work, helpful people, and a strong community mindset. I think you could like it there. Hinata does take a moment to consider things before nodding. Of course, if your clan has special requirements or you would prefer to be more secluded, we can arrange something for you as well. We do have an island nearby that we've been meaning to develop and your family could be just the excuse we need. Hinata could see a hopeful look crossing the woman's face and tried to sweeten the deal, it has a natural hot spring. We could even build up a bathhouse. Hana couldn't help but mentally drool over the thought, a family bathhouse would be a wonderful idea. We could run it as a sort of resort. Shaking herself and coughing into her hand as she can see Hinata grin, Hana gives the young woman points for being attentive. Admittedly, after our treatment in Kiri, we would like to remain a bit isolated for some time. Being around people not of our family can be exhausting, to say the least. She does however turn to Hinata more fully, we do not wish to put an undue burden on Yuzushio or the Uzumaki family. You are already doing much for us by allowing my clan to resettle here. We will accept whatever you allow us to have, though we would prefer not to become some new military asset for you. We were assured we would allowed to live peaceful lives after all. They were done with war and bloodshed. They had lost more than enough lives, to the senselessness of it all. Hinata thinks that over, I think you should consider your options thoroughly. Thinking on it, we do have a new district we are building up as well, that's a healthy mix of close to the city but far enough to be away from the major hustle and bustle. And Naruto's word rings true, you will be allowed to live however you please within Yuzushio, so long as you can get along with the rest of the citizens here. That won't be an issue. Hana knew her people, they were ready for a new life, we will do our best to integrate seamlessly. Reaching the common room and gaining the attention of 30 or so people, Hana motions to them all with a smile, this is most of my remaining family. A few of the children seem to be missing, but probably are out exploring the ship I'm sure. And we would love to hear some stories about your city and your own family. Hinata can't help but smile and nod, seeing that much like Hana, the Yuki clan collectively seem to be more of the traditionally dressed. Well, I'm sure you'll have plenty of stories to tell me. But let me tell you about your new home. They didn't want to be a burden, huh? Bah. Hinata would have them convinced the hot spring island was the best place for them and having them thinking it was their idea before they left the ship. Above deck and back on the bridge, Naruto is leaning against the back wall while idly chatting with Tsuyoshi and Tazuna. Tsuyoshi can't help but secretly be a little impressed with the young man. A Kage and husband, as well as an internationally known ninja. Seems like a huge workload for a young pup to have. Gonna have to broaden those shoulders up. Not that the kid looked weak, not at all. Those lean muscles of his would fill out as he got older for sure. Naruto couldn't help but grin. Big dreams come with big work, don't they? Caught off guard, Tsuyoshi can't help but burst out into loud laughter. True words, boy, true words. Slapping his hands on his chair while his bridge crew watch him from the corner of their eyes, each making their own internal decisions and coming to the conclusion that the kid had him hooked. I like you, kid, but liking you isn't enough to sway my decision. This is the future of my family at stake after all. Naruto nods and points a lazy finger out of the winder. Oh, don't worry, I've got something that'll give you some real incentive. Seeing the fog bank closing in, Naruto focuses and creates a single hardened clone. You know the drill, yeah? Clone nodding with a salute, he bounces out of the bridge, on a boss. Before anyone can stop it or question it, the clone is bounding over the side of the ship and racing into the fog bank. Feeling questioning looks turned his way, Naruto shrugs. Remember when I said the whirlpools wouldn't be a problem? They're powered by Uzumaki seals. Only an Uzumaki can shut them down. So I sent my clone to clear the way for us, and activate them as we pass by. That seems like a major piece of information to give us right away. Tsuyoshi points out with no malice. It's not like it's a secret. Every nation who's tried to invade Uzushio before knows about our whirlpools. Naruto shrugs as the ship barrels its way into the fog. Of course, no one knows just how many whirlpools there are now. Guessing there are more now? A lot more. And some scarier things too. It takes some time, but they eventually break through the fog bank to open and clear skies and the island of Uzushio on their right-hand side, or their starboard side as Naruto had learned. On their left, port side again he mentally changed, was another smaller island that he had found a natural hot spring on. He sure wanted to do something with it, but wasn't willing to step on the land of hot springs toes with that. At least not without a good reason. Of course, it wasn't like anyone else didn't have hot springs, but still, the close proximity gave him pause. Shrugging as the ship navigated its way through the strait between the islands, Naruto pointed straight ahead where they were beginning to make out a much taller island with a bare mountain. That is our destination. Looks like a miserable rock. Tsuyoshi pulled no punches. Tazuna was the one to come to their defense this time. Great building spot. Easy access to bedrock. We stuck the fortress there and you aren't wrong. If you aren't careful, it's a miserable rock to try to get a foothold on. But if you know the way. Tazuna trailed off with a grin, and Tsuyoshi got the message. Sounded like a perfect spot for a fortress then. As they begin to pass by Uzushio, Naruto sees a form racing along the water and kicking up a decently sized wake. His radio crackles to life, and in his ear Isaribi's voice calls out. Queen Undertow here. Any Uzushioni know this ship coming in, or is this kaiju bait? Over. Naruto can't help but chuckle, gaining everyone's attention while he made a show of pulling free his radio receiver and keying the unit directly. Queen Undertow, this is Mr. 9. He still wasn't sure about his call sign. But between the girls jokingly trying to make the Exalted One stick, or several of the ninja mission staff trying to go for unending stamina, he'd take Mr. 9. These are our newest citizen transplants from Kiri. En route to Fortress. Over. Seeing a hand wave towards him, Isaribi's voice enters his ear again. Roger that, Mr. 9. Undertow returning to patrol. Watching the woman jump and then dive back underwater, a massive shape following behind her along with several smaller others, Naruto sighs and wonders what else Karen or Onoka cooked up for her. Something nightmare-inducing most likely. Tsuyoshi catches on that they must have encountered a patrol, so security was tight then. You're a prudent bunch. Most would have let the natural defense do their job. That Uzushio still ran patrols was telling of a people willing to put contingencies in place and plan for emergencies. Naruto can't help but nod as the main portion of his radio makes it back into a pouch nestled at his lower back. Never hurts to be prepared. Be ready for anything really. They were ninja. Ninja were sneaky. Though the ship was faster than most, it was still another half an hour of travel time before the ship got within range of their island destination. Naruto directing them to the cove entrance with a grin as the fortress loomed high overhead on the other side of the island. Even from here as they closed in, the high and thick walls were an imposing sight that Tsuyoshi can't help but give an impressed whistle to. That's good work, guessin' that's you, Tazuna? Tazuna nods, arms crossed over his chest with pride. Yup. Took some work, but I'm proud of our job here. I'll be even more proud of this addition we're going to work on once we get the design finalized. Entrance to the cove just before them, Naruto looks back to the captain of this ship. Might want to slow, this is it. Tsuyoshi makes a motion and the helmsman does just that, slowing the ship as they enter the massive cove through the archway. Quiet gasps come from the crew as they take in the space, while on deck below them the various crew members are all slowing in their work and taking in the area as well. Naruto watches them all and knows he has them hooked. Above them new work lights had been installed temporarily to give them light in the dark space, while along the back wall where the fortress entrance was, space had already begun to be demolished and cleared especially so they could begin docking and unloading ships. It was rough, and still needed work, but Naruto pointed around the massive space. We eventually plan on turning all of this space into not just a port for the fortress, but our shipyard as well. It's rough, needs everything. But I'm sure you aren't afraid of getting your hands dirty, no? Seeing the rapid scanning of Tsuyoshi's eyes over the area, Naruto isn't worried about the Zosensho clan settling in Uzushio anymore. They could see the opportunity here, and they would take it. Tsuyoshi already knew it was a done deal. This was exactly what his family liked, a large enclosed space that could be walled off and protected from the elements. They could build year-round, protect themselves from the elements and from intruders. Build it how they wished so long as they got to give their input on the port's designs. Carefully, he turned his eyes to Tazuna and realized Naruto had brought him here just for this. Tazuna was the builder and designer, just who Tsuyoshi was going to want to talk to right away. Shit. Kid had him and by the looks of it, he knew it too. Grumbling and ignoring the quiet chuckles of his crew, Tsuyoshi slapped his chair. Well, it's not a bad space. Might just fit us all. Before anyone could call him out, a younger boy of maybe 12 zoomed onto the bridge, slamming into Tsuyoshi's side and pointing excitedly out of the front windows. Dad. Is this our new home? Holy cow, we could all spread out and we wouldn't even take up a quarter of this place. Come on, tell me this is our place. Is it? Wide Eyes looked intently at the older man, and with a tired sigh he gave up, his crew chuckling. Aw, burn it all, yeah, this is home. Or will be once we get some construction going. His son cheering and sprinting away to most likely spread the news, Tsuyoshi turns a tired eye to Naruto who can't help but grin and bow lightly towards him. I need a man's promise from you, lad. Naruto turned fully to Tsuyoshi and held out a fist. If it's within my power, it'll happen. Through his demeanor and the respect he seemed to command from his people, Tsuyoshi got the feeling that Naruto was the type to honor a promise till death and then some. If we stay here, if we decide to build ships and weapons, we demand that they only ever be used in the defense of their home, or in the defense of others. Can you promise that? Naruto nods instantly, absolutely. Uzushio will never use anything you build for anything other than protecting the weak in our home. We wish to remain peaceful and to build peaceful relations with as many nations as possible after all. Standing and coming towards the young leader, Tsuyoshi holds out a hand which Naruto takes and they both shake firmly. Then we are yours to command, Lord Uzumaki. The Zosensho are in Uzushio-Bikure clan from here on. Naruto grins as the man steps back, happy to have you, Tsuyoshi the Keel. I promise we will do our best to do right by you so long as you are with us. Tazuna is already standing and making his way outside. Well, if we're back, come get me back to shore so we can get back to work. Now we really need to ramp up construction. Naruto nods and follows along behind Tazuna. Gotcha, old man, I'll get you to shore. I'm gonna sick tsunami on you one day. You wouldn't. Absolutely would. Both men banter as the gathered Zosensho men all watch them leave, eyebrows raised at the casual manner of their new leader. Tsuyoshi can't help but chuckled and returned to relax in his chair. Maybe this won't be so bad. At least he isn't so stuffy as most other nobles. Down below, Naruto has the chance to freak out everyone by steadily making a procession of dozens upon of clones at a time, one of which having grabbed Tazuna and was carrying the loudly barking man towards the shore. Already his orders were being followed, and several clones were getting back to making a racket, blasting and removing rock from selected areas. Having heard the news and decided to come up to observe, Hinata followed by Hana as several members of her clan reached the upper deck. Looking around with some wonder, Hinata comes to find the grinning blonde who was well on his way to making more than 1,000 clones. I'm guessing things went well. Naruto nods, looking back at his love and smirking. The Zosensho have pledged to be a clan of Uzushio from here on. Hinata accepts that easily, never doubting that Naruto would bring the somewhat stubborn clan head around. Turning aside, she watched as Hana comes before the teen and gathers his attention. As he turns to them, Hana bows deeply to him, an action mirrored by her family members with her. We as well, the Yuki clan pledges their lives to Uzushio and the Uzumaki clan. May our lines be long and prosperous. Standing tall and having a small smile on her face, Hana has no worries that things will go well for them so long as they are with Naruto. Grinning, Naruto gives them all a resolute nod. I promise, we'll take good care of you here. Hinata chimes in quickly. I had mentioned that the hot spring island we were thinking of developing would be perfect for them. Think we can spare some time for that soon? Naruto nods without a care. Sure thing, Tazuna and Kotoheim actually designed something out a while ago. Supplies won't be an issue, so I'll set about getting started on it tomorrow. Easy work really. By now, he mentally had thousands of hours in construction, thanks to Tazuna and his clones. He could work the entire project alone if needed. Hana waved her hands quickly. We do not wish to be a burden, my lord. Honest. Naruto was already waving her off. It's no trouble at all. If you do decide to open it up as a resort though, make sure to invite my family at least once. I'm sure you can turn it into something breathtaking when you get to personalize it. Focusing back on his work, he went back to creating clones. He still had a little more to give now that he thought about it. Tiredly looking at the innocent-looking Hinata, Hana couldn't help but snorting. You are crafty. Hinata nods. Have to be, my husband is a very determined one. She motions to the horde of clones around them. He can spawn literal legions to follow his will. All for the sake of making his will reality. He wants to make a better life for his precious people, and that now includes you. You'll have to get used to his more hyper-focused personality. One of the Yuki clan members, a younger girl with a shock of white hair and purple eyes, can't help but mumble loud enough for everyone to hear her. Are we sure he's not some kami descended to Earth? What human can do this? Hinata chuckled and watches the chaos around them with a smile. If he is, consider him one for the people here to make our lives better with every one action he takes. She couldn't let Kurama hear that kind of talk though. The proud and arrogant Biju would let it go straight to his head. Chapter 55. If Naruto was learning anything, it was that Taki was as a village very traditional and isolationist. Fo had gotten them up earlier, excited to show her friend around. From the impressive waterfall and great lake that fed it, to the massive shelter tree around which the village was built. Now they were wandering through the market, Fo having to stock up for the week on provisions, while Naruto was carrying her bag. Watching the eternally cheerful and bubbly Fo bounce from vendor to vendor, Naruto considers this a good vacation. Sure, she wasn't venting her frustrations out on Danzo, but Fu was entertaining and fun to watch. Fu came back towards her with a carton of eggs and carefully placed them in the bag before dragging Naruto along by the hand to their next destination. Come on, I want to take you to the lake and see if maybe we can spot a few of the super pretty fish there. Our water is special, so the fish get these really vibrant colors and sometimes get super big. Chuckling, Naruto lets the excited girl drag her along. Don't worry, I'm not leaving yet, don't have to drag me. Offering only a token resistance, Naruto couldn't help but see the scornful looks that the villagers passed Fu's way. Certainly not like Konoha, at least the villagers took to ignoring them, versus this open hatred. Jinchuriki certainly did have universal experiences, didn't they? Fu was above it all, internally jumping for joy and dancing for all she was worth. She had a friend. Someone who understood her. Someone who actually wanted to get to know her. It was a dream come true. Looking back at the bright blonde with the black cap personality, Fu marveled a bit at her. She seemed too confident, so aloof and so daring. Her t-shirt had been so dirty, so today she strutted around in an orange bikini top under her black jacket and black pants. So much skin was showing. Fu didn't know where to look, so instead she aggressively focused on the village. Anything else than the nosebleed-inducing blonde at her side. Naruto was curious about something as she watched the dusky-skinned girl trot along with a smile on her face. Fu-chan, why don't you wear ninja sandals? Embarrassed a bit, Fu chuckled nervously and tried to wave it away. Oh, they're so heavy when flying, so I'd just rather not wear them. Imagine all of the sandals I'd have to replace when I took them off every time I had to go flying, right? It'd be such a waste. Unsaid, of course, was that she was never able to buy proper footwear. Sure, the villagers tolerated her enough to buy food and some clothes, but that was it. The less time she spent in the village, the better. Naruto figured out the real reason fast enough and decided then and there to pay the local supply store a visit later tonight. Got it. So long as you're comfortable, I guess. More like someone needed to be eviscerated. Naruto gave thanks that at least her friend was allowed to walk about and buy what she needed without being cheated. That was a small plus. Walking along as they were and making their way out of the market district, they had to pass through an area with a few bars and eateries to make it to the lake. This of course put them in contact with more of the ninja population, and Naruto could already tell by Fu's hurried steps that she wanted to be through and out of here quickly. It wasn't meant to be, as a pair of dark-dressed takenin barred their path. Both men were nearly identical, dark-haired and dusky-skinned and moderately muscled. That they were glaring openly at Fu while ignoring Naruto said something the other girl didn't like and set the hair on the back of her neck rising. Well, look who it is, little insect has caught someone new in her web, I see. You really think we'd let you get away with corrupting someone in our presence? Bro's right, she's obviously an outsider, don't taint their perception with your wretched existence. Let her go, bug. Nervous and bringing a hand up to clench it to her chest, Fu backed away slightly while her grip on Naruto's hand tightened. I doubt I'm not doing anything wrong. Could you just let us pass? You hear that? She thinks she can talk back to us. Bug thinks her opinion matters. Shibuki-sama is too soft on ya, so we'll have to beat some sense into you, I think. Fu shook her head quickly, taking another step back. I don't think that's a good idea. We really should be going. Naruto was beyond confused why Fu put up with this. She was obviously much stronger than these idiots, and with none of the cowards around them willing to help or intervene, she should just smash them into the ground and be done with it. Welp, Naruto-sama was here to do just that. Airhead-chan would thank her later. Gently pulling the other girl by the hand behind her and passing off the bag of groceries to her and getting a squeak in response, Naruto turned a glare on the suddenly confused men. Welp, their ignorance wouldn't save them. You know, don't you think she can decide for herself who she befriends or not? Don't worry about her. We treat her like that because we're supposed to. Yeah, cutie, it's good for her. Naruto raised a delicate eyebrow. You really believe that? Of course. Here one man nudged the other in the shoulder, leering at Naruto, say. Maybe we could explain this better over a drink, come join us, leave that bug girl alone. Yeah, we can teach you all about how Taki operates. Looking the busty blonde up and down, he had his own thoughts on just what he'd like to see her operate. Sighing and shaking her head, Naruto was reminded on why Naruto built the Oreo jutsu so long ago. Perverts were idiots, and exposing them was always worth it. Listen, I'm only going to say this once. Eyes shining and turning blood red and slitting like a cat's, she made sure to keep her eyes focused on them and out of sight of Fu. Hating Fu is the same as hating me, get it? So unless you want me to start getting stabby, I suggest you leave her alone. Tightly directing more than a little killing intent their way, a wide grin full of sharp teeth grew on her face. Your choice. Suddenly sweating and wanting to be anywhere else except in front of the apparent monster girl, both men suddenly turned the opposite direction. Why you're right. We have somewhere to be, later. And then they were gone, nearly sprinting to parts unknown while Naruto sighed and released her chakra. Fucking cowards never could stand up against some real power. Turning a more kind grin Fu's way, the protective girl nodded. So, should we go? Suddenly she realized that she'd burned through a small chunk of her remaining chakra, but the gentle part of her decided it was well worth it. Fu couldn't help but have stars in her eyes as she nodded dumbly, and Naruto tugged her along towards the lake. Hand warm in her own, it was the first time in a long time that she could remember anyone being protective of her. Feeling flush and fidgety, Fu squeezed Naruto's hand. Nachan. Naruto could only grin as she glared at anyone who even thought to look their way. What's up, Airhead-chan? Moo, I'm not an airhead. Shaking their combined hands, Fu indignantly puffed out her cheeks. Sure look like one with your cheeks puffed out like that. You're so mean, Nachan. Fu watched as Naruto laughed and a smile lit up her face. She was sure this was the first time she had seen the other girl smile so genuinely. It made her heart pound. I don't want you to get in trouble, Nachan. Naruto shook her head as they continued on, deciding this was more than a little fun. I'll be alright. You know you shouldn't let assholes like that push you around. I know. I just. Well, you know, right? Naruto couldn't help but nod. Yeah. I do. Stupid Naruto and his super wide forgiveness streak. At least she didn't have that. But that's why I'm here now. You're my best friend, so I gotta look out for ya. Assholes like that deserve to eat an exploding note. Giggling at Naruto's description, Fu nodded, that's right. Yeah. Giggling some more and pulling ahead to lead the way, she pulled Naruto into the air as her wings formed at her lower back and spread wide. Come on. I want to show you somewhere special. Naruto settled into being pulled into the air and weaving air currents around her to keep up behind her friend and smiled. So, this was what caring for someone was like? It was odd. So many mixed emotions. Protectiveness. Jealousy. Anger. Hate. Lust. Love. It was all so intoxicating. She didn't want it to end. Soaring above the village and for once really not caring what the villagers might think of her, Fu led the way into the high branches of the massive tree that protected them all. Settling them both into a tight spot that gave a view of the village and the lake, and just a sliver of the land of fire forests in the distance, Fu sighed and crossed her legs on a tree branch. Naruto decided to sit next to her, joining her in watching the view and waiting patiently for whatever it was Fu wanted to tell her, getting a feeling that this was about more than just sharing a view. Fu goes quiet, twiddling her thumbs as she considers what to say to her new friend. You know. Yesterday you said that if I wanted to meet other Jinchuriki, I should leave the village, right? Naruto nodded slowly, idly taking a peach from the grocery bag and beginning to munch on it. That's right. This was very sweet. Fu thought about it. Really thought about it. Could she be as amazing and strong as Naruto apparently was? Sure, she was powerful as a ninja and had a biju inside her, but she was nothing like the strong-willed girl. I want to, you know. I want to fly away. To soar through the sky from place to place. I want to meet new people. Explore anywhere and everywhere that I can reach. But. Naruto sees the pause for what it is and waves a hand out over the village. This is all you've ever known. It's scary, thinking that you could leave. Naruto does understand that. This was the nest, her home, and no one had ever kicked her out and forced her to fly. Naruto got that, even if it was by explosion. Only thing really stopping you is you. I know. Answer instant, Fu looking down into the tree bark and began tracing a finger along rough lines and textures. How do you do it? Naruto shrugged, by following what is important. Which was her desires. To her, her life was most important. Being so fleeting and not know when her end would come, she had to do everything her heart desired. Something in her almost seemed to flinch at that, while another was angry, at herself? Maybe. Yeah, probably. Why though? Fu however took it a different way. Following what is important, huh? And what was important? Naruto had defended her against those guys earlier. So did she mean protecting her friends? Following her heart? She'd have to think on it some. I'm glad. Fu turned shining eyes to the surprised Naruto. I'm glad you came. I'm glad we met. You're really special, I think, Nachan. All of her flinched mentally at the naked affection on the other girl's face. Oh. That was guilt. What an ugly emotion. She didn't like that at all. Bashful herself. Naruto sighed and decided Fu deserved the truth. She really was like a lost puppy. I gotta explain some things to you, okay? Fu waved her hands quickly. It's okay. You're my friend, you don't have to explain anything if it'll get you in trouble. Chuckling and shaking her head, Naruto held eye contact with the worried Fu. I won't get into any trouble. I'd have to be human to have to worry about that. Seeing the confusion on Fu's face hurt, but Naruto powered through it. Be like Naruto, she told herself. I'm actually really not human. Like at all. I started out as a shadow clone of the Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed fox. But. Somewhere along the way, I changed. I'm sorta my own person, but I'm a mix of things as well. I'm him, but not. Sure, I can eat and breathe and feel and be completely independent. But. Here she looks away, not ready to see the betrayal on the other girl's face. I was made to torture and maim a really bad guy. And after that I was supposed to dispel. But I had an idea. A small dream. As long as my independence lasted, I wanted to see as much of the world as I could. To explore and make friends and experience everything that I could. Love and hate, petty fights, and great triumphs. Looking out over the village that didn't know what a good person they were treating like shit, she wondered if she had enough time to leave a little present for them before she faded away. I'm sure if you went to Uzushio. My creator Naruto would love to meet you. He'd be your bestest friend ever and show you how great humans can be, and he'd get to stay. Naruto really looked away now, turning her head away from Fu. He wouldn't eventually fade away, not like me. Just some mistake, some abomination, not a real person. Absolutely not. Angry, Fu reached forward and pulled Naruto back around to face her, eyes shining with tears. You can't say things like that about yourself. You're real. I think you're real. Look. Here she held up their hands, clasped together and fingers intertwined. You can touch me, right? You feel and love and hate and think and all those things, right? Who gets to say whether you're real or not but you? And you can't say that you aren't real, because I won't have it. Fu hiccuped once and held on to the astonished clone's hands tightly. You're my bestest friend, not your creator, or brother, or whatever he is to you. So you can't leave me, you're staying and we're going to go on adventures and you're going to learn everything about me, and I'm going to learn everything about you and. Naruto couldn't help the soft smile that began to grace her face as her friend hiccuped and sobbed in front of her. Sorry. Don't apologize. Crying out right now, Fu was frustrated that she couldn't articulate her feelings properly to her friend. I'm sure Naruto is great if you're based off of him, but you are you. If you want me to meet him, we're going together. Going together, huh? Naruto felt within herself, I doubt I have the chakra left to make that trip. Shaking her head and wiping her tears away, Fu gained a determined look on her face. What do you mean? Thinking about it quickly, the ninja side of her tackled the problem in an instant. Right. You were a clone at first, you can't generate chakra. Bingo. Fu smiled brightly and chakra began to coat her form, then take some of mine. Blinking, Naruto wondered if that would even work. Would that make her a chakra parasite then? Was she a vampire? I don't know if that'll work. You eat things and gain chakra from them, right? That's why you can eat so much and it goes nowhere, right? Yeah, pretty much. Fu nodded and spread her arms wide, then eat me. Snorting, Naruto couldn't help the laugh that escaped her. I think you could have worded that better. Blushing heavily and waving her hands quickly, Fu tried to stop her friend from laughing at her. My chakra. I meant my chakra. Thinking about it though, Fu looked away. I mean, unless you want to do the other thing. Naruto watched the other girl carefully. You? I don't know, okay? Fu pulled Naruto into a hug, careful not to squeeze her too tightly and conscious of hurting or damaging her. You're the first person I've ever had these emotions for. I don't know what to do with them. But, I know I want to help you. And if you don't have a lot of time left, then I want you to experience everything that you want to experience before you go. Feeling out and confirming that it wasn't as easy as just absorbing Fu's chakra, though again some part of her raged that she should be able to do so, Naruto sighed and pushed away from Fu by her shoulders. Yeah, eating your chakra isn't going to work. Fu nodded and grabbed her bag to shove it into Naruto's arms. Then we're going home. Picking up the surprised girl in her arms, she began flying back to her treehouse. I'm going to make you a big meal, and then we're going to have as much fun as we can before you have to leave. Eyes shining but holding strong in the face of her friend, Fu grinned, and if you do fade away, I'll go to Uzushio and hunt down your brother and I'll make him summon clones until he summons you again. I have no doubt you'll come back and we can go on more and more adventures, together. Racing above the sky, Fu was determined to make sure her newest friend had as much of a life as she could have. Deciding then and there that Fu was insane, Naruto couldn't help the throaty laugh that bubbled free. You sure do love hard, don't you, Airhead-chan? That's right, Na-chan. Get used to it. God, you and Naruto are going to get along perfectly. Great. I'd like your brother's approval so we can be together for as long as possible. You've just decided all on your own. He's my brother. Couldn't he technically be my father? Nope, I like the idea of brother, you're technically the same age. Shoving the conversation aside, Naruto relaxed in Fu's grip and enjoyed the ride. The flighty insect girl was absolutely an airhead. A bit crazy. And constantly bubbly and happy. But she was full of other more complex emotions as well, bottling up sadness and hurt and determination and so much more. Well, at least she got to tick finding love off of her list. The voices were a bit judgmental about that, but oh well and screw them. It was her life, not theirs. Scene change, office full and desk clear. Naruto makes steady eye contact with everyone present. All of Foxden was in attendance, along with Riptide team. Today was to assign missions and deal out several orders as they prepared to clear their roster so he could leave with less worries than before. Turning to Yugo and his team, Naruto nods to them with a grin. So, we've got a mission passed along from Gaara over in Suna. There's some strife going on between the villages in Claw and Fong. You're to figure it out and smooth relations over with them. Think you can handle that? Yugo bows deeply. Of course, Lord Naruto. Just Naruto Yugo. We're friends. Of course, Lord Naruto. Chuckling as he tossed the mission scroll to Kin, the group said their goodbyes and left quickly. Hoping as always to finish their mission and return right away. Turning his vision now to Karen and Anoka, Naruto poses a question to the pair. Have you had a chance to meet the Zosencho clan yet? What do you think of them? They were the pair most interested in future technology and such, so he would leave it to them to check on the industrious clan. Karen hums while Anoka speaks up first. I wouldn't mind seeing if they could bring a couple of designs I've had in mind to life. But well. Karen points a finger at Naruto. We finally want a break. With you leaving, we've decided we need to get some training in and catch back up with everyone. Anoka nodded at the look of relief that passed over Naruto's face. The border golem are performing flawlessly and we've updated the samurai with a minor speech ability. So we're all set there for now. Sounds great. Take some actual time off, please don't train the whole time. Naruto watches both girls look to each other before grinning and refusing to answer him. Damn it. Make us. Karen's eyes held both a promise and a challenge, and Naruto considered if he had the time for it. He'd make it. He always did. Both girls saw that he was done with them and bounded over to the table off to the side where Koyuki and Kotoheim were seated together, prodding and gossiping with the daimyo and the music user about how their pregnancies was going. Ino steps forward next with a clipboard held in front of her. We've gotten a report from Wave. Jiraiya is headed this way with Irika and Anko. Something is going on with Anko, apparently. Thoughts and memories surface in Naruto's mind, idly remembering that something had gone on between Orochimaru and the crazy snake woman. She was his apprentice. Maybe he gave her a curse seal as well. Great, he needed to clear the room quickly then. No biggie, make sure everyone knows to let them in here. I'll take care of it. Hinata pipes up quickly. You have an idea of what they're here for? Did they call ahead? Naruto shook his head. No. Just a hunch is all. Ino grinned. Maybe Anko's pregnant and they want to let us know? Hinata wondered about that one, Naruto looking confused about it. Do you really think they would come all the way just to announce that? Irika would. Naruto sighs. I sure hope that's it. His mind had went instantly to worst-case scenario. Maybe he was getting too paranoid. Turning to the speculative Hinata, Naruto leaned back in his chair. Do you have anything to update me on? She had still been acting as his secretary, as it also gave her time to study and practice with sealing. No. I've actually been thinking about taking a mission with Ino and Tayuya while we still can. Tayuya jumps on that right away. If I'm going to be stuck behind a desk, it would be fun to go out and do something. She was not built to be stuck in one place like that. She wasn't sure how Naruto could handle it. Naruto shrugs. There are always bounties you can track down. Just stay safe, will ya? We aren't glass whiskers. Ino winks at him as the three girls huddle together and begin planning. Who would they hunt down? An Akatsuki member had been spotted around Suna lately, and another pair near Taki. It was a hard choice. But a single opponent would be easier, most likely. I think we can plan out a good one. We're still clear to hunt down Akatsuki bounties, right? Naruto nods. We aren't allies, and we aren't enemies either. Naruto wasn't sure if they would respond if Uzushio started hunting their numbers. Deidara was of the mind that Pain wouldn't care. If members were weak and got picked off, they deserved it in his mind. Conversation with that explosion expert was always enlightening. Just be careful, all of them are S-rank for a reason. More than that, all of them have committed some serious and heinous atrocities. Don't forget that. Naruto nodded at Kurama's advice. They did want me dead too, at one point. Exactly. I say hoist them by their entrails. Chuckling and turning to Koyuki as Ino, Hinata, and Tayuya head for the door, Naruto grins at her. What are your plans? Going to stay here in Yuzu? Koyuki nods, yup. Myself and Kotoheim are going to stick together and stay in Yuzushio with you all the way up until you leave. After that we'll probably head back to spring, or if Sandeu is finally tired of us getting in the way and being gossiping busybodies, we'll move here full time. Well, I will. Kotoheim has just been keeping me company. Kotoheim can't help but smile at her. We're Prego sisters, we have to experience this together. I personally think it would be good to have all of us under one roof for good. Naruto can't help but nod, rather enjoying the thought of having everyone within reach. I agree. Koyuki rolled her eyes, easily figuring out his mindset. Of course you do. Though she wouldn't mind more pampering from her love. Desk buzzing, Naruto reaches over to activate the intercom connected to his secretary's desk. What's up, Kion? The green-haired woman had taken to standing in for Hinata when she was busy. You have Jiraiya-sama, are a pair of Leaf Nin, here to see you. While her tone had barely changed with mentioning the pair accompanying Jiraiya, Naruto had a feeling about just what the Yuzunin thought of them. Grunting and look around at everyone still hanging around, Naruto nods even if she can't see him. Go ahead and let the pervert in. It'll be good to see Iruka-sensei and Anko. You brat. Jiraiya barged in quickly, fuming and pointing a finger towards him. What have I told you? Use my proper title. Your proper title is super pervert. Exactly. Leaning out from behind the broad man who said to chortling, Iruka waved to his former student. It's great to see you again, Naruto. It was still amazing. The class clown turned Kage. And he was apparently doing just fine. It was a relief really. Getting up and bypassing Jiraiya, Naruto is quick to share a manly hug with Iruka while Anko stood off to the side. Good to see you again, Iruka-sensei. Pulling away and grinning, he hooked a thumb towards the remaining girls who were watching them all quietly. The girls are taking bets. You getting married or is Anko pregnant? Snorting and laughing long and loud, Anko nearly falls to the floor while Iruka shoots her a well-worn and tired look. No, Naruto, no pregnancy here. Naruto nods sagely. Ah, so marriage then. Congratulations then. Let's throw a party. Iruka grabbed the boy and started shaking him. We are getting married yet either. Anko looked up towards him from her place on the floor where she was holding her ribs. Yet? Caught and flustered, Iruka pointed a finger towards her. You know what I meant, don't start. Yes sir, grinning and more than a little turned on by the authoritative man, Anko was slow to stand and rejoin her love as Naruto couldn't help but laugh and step back to lean against his desk. Well, don't leave me guessing, what's brought you all here? It's a long trip just for a social call. Anko sighs, wanting to be the one to bring it up and motioning to her neck. My seal has been acting up lately. Was hoping you might have some answers for me. Your seal. Great, it was the worst case scenario then. Shit, hold on. Turning to the remaining girls, he motions towards the door. I'm gonna have to get to work and maybe do something dangerous, you'll wanna clear out. Kotoheim is the first to stand and smile towards him. Understood, you'll be alright, yes? Naruto nods as all of the girls stand and start making for the door. Absolutely, it's just whatever is left of the snake team. I just don't want to take chances with you all. Koyuki sighs at the romance of it all. You sweet talker you. You better come find us when you're done. Naruto gives her a thumbs up as they walk through the door. That's a promise, Heim. Getting a wink from her, the door closes and his entire demeanor changes. Eyes serious, he makes a few clones that begin to clear floor space and one unseals a soft rug to lay on the floor. Okay, let's see that seal. Anko nods, shucking Iruka's flak vest enough so that Naruto can see the cursed seal at the apex of her neck. It was glowing a sinister purple color, and Naruto couldn't help the frown that deepened on his face. Been like this for a while now. Couldn't remember when it started honestly. It had been extremely painful before Jiraiya had added a containment seal around it, but even that was beginning to be taxed. Naruto however motions to the soft-looking pale blue plush rug, strip and lay down. We're gonna have to work fast. Feeling like teasing, Anko does however remove and hand over Iruka's flak jacket to him. You move fast kiddo. Don't you want to buy me dinner first at least? Working on and removing her chainmail bodysuit's upper half, she turned to Iruka. Think this could be a birthday present? I get to have you and the little stud all to myself for a day? Seeing neither man respond or look even remotely happy, Anko notes that Naruto is barely paying attention to her and unsealing tools and sealing ink. How bad is it? Do I want to know? No. You don't. Eyes hard as he turns to see her laying on her front as directed by a clone, Naruto turns to Irika. Can you hold yourself back from trying to interfere, or should you step out? This could get ugly. Irika shook his head. I can keep out of the way, but I want to be here, if the worst comes to pass. Irika is already moving to place himself in a corner, far away from the action. What is the worst-case scenario here? Naruto shook his head. I'd rather not bring it up until after we finish. There were many things worse than death. Having your body and soul taken over by a megalomaniac, determined to live forever, was certainly one of them. Jiraiya looks over his shoulder as he grabs a vial of sealing ink and an ink brush. Anything I can do to help? It was easy to admit that he was nowhere close to being on par with an Uzumaki seal master, but surely he could still help a little. It is however unfortunate that Naruto has to dispel that hope right away. You might want to be ready to fight off a portion of Orochimaru's soul. Seeing the confusion on Jiraiya's face and everyone else's, Naruto realizes he might have said too much. Welp, couldn't help that now. Walking over and joining Anko on the floor by sitting on her legs, Naruto begins to draw and write all over her back and arms. Well, long story short, I had to fight and kill Orochimaru. But he's got a fail-safe in place. Anyone that has a curse seal on them actually has a portion of his soul tethered to them, in order to revive himself in case someone comes along that can kill him. Like me. Drawing and building a full destruction seal, Naruto is determined to fully remove this curse seal. It was different from Tayuya's, not as advanced. As such, there would be no saving the sections that were supposed to pull in natural chakra or offer a partial transformation. Jiraiya can't help but sigh, hearing the eventual fate of his long-lost teammate. If it helps, he was bound to end up in the dirt eventually. From all his experiments, his heedless pursuit of power and knowledge, and all of his atrocities, someone was going to put him down one day. I'm actually glad that it was you. Sighing and nodding to the boy who was focused on his work, Jiraiya makes a note to talk to Tsunade. I'll tell Tsuhime. Least I can do. Naruto nods without looking, saves me a trip at least. Working and being grateful that Anko's usual attire allowed for a lot of free space, he has plenty of room to draw the intricate seal needed to save her life. Enough of Orochimaru had finally begun to gather within her seal, to try and start takeover. A few more days and the bastard would have taken her. Anko. Looking over her shoulder at the boy and doing her best not to move even with the ticklish brush running over her skin, the woman offers him a focused amber eye. What's up, kiddo? We're going to have to do this in stages. And it's going to ramp up. It'll go from uncomfortable, to a little painful, to full-on agonizing hell. And I can't stop once I start. Anko only nods in return, turning to face down into the rug. Do what you gotta do, kid. Anything to rid me of this seal. She's startled as a clone pokes her in the forehead, offering her a strip of leather to bite down on. She takes it in her mouth, suddenly very aware that the kid was very serious about what he just said. Well shit. First removing Jiraiya's containment seal, Naruto begins to work on the curse seal itself by setting aside his sealing ink and brush and beginning to feed chakra into his own seal he had made. Thanks to the practice he had with Tayuya, the first few sections were pretty easy. The nature chakra converter was first to go, followed by chakra storage and loyalty seals. Those were the easy ones. Next came the enzyme storage and injection seal. That one physically had to burn itself out and away, drawing a small shudder from the woman while Naruto paused to begin to draw new layers of intricate seals in preparation for the last portion of the seal that needed to be removed. The shard of the seal holding Orochimaru's soul. On the fly, he realized that if he destroyed this seal, Orochimaru might just hop to another target. On the fly, he decided to needed to prevent that from happening. This is going to be the shitty part. Grit those teeth. Naruto lays his hands on her back, beginning to work his own chakra into the array to power it, knowing Orochimaru wouldn't go down without a fight. Which held true. Healthy blue chakra fought against sinister purple as Naruto's applied seal began to twist and move along the shuddering and shaking woman. Muffled screams left her mouth as she bit down hard on the leather in her mouth, and behind them Jiraiya noted that Irika was visibly fighting himself from flying across the roof to do something. Something probably stupid, but it was torture for him to have to sit there and wait. Naruto, however, grinning as Orochimaru was quickly being beat down. Take that, you bastard. Kurama chuckled in his mind, your control has improved greatly since then. It really is no wonder you're having an easy time of this. It's too bad I can't tear him physically out here and beat the shit out of him again. Kurama grinned and exposed rows of vicious canine teeth. I think getting torn apart at the atomic level and then liquidated by explosive hellfire are more than enough, don't you think? For that monster? Now seeing the seal nearly completely destroyed, Naruto grins and gives one final push, seal burning the last of itself away as deep purple chakra expelled from her body and coalesced in the air above her. Before their eyes, the chakra condensed and shaped itself into a deep purple glass-looking shard that dropped onto the ground beside her. Grinning at the nearly black shard, Naruto reaches down to pick it up before sealing it into a small scroll, then sealing that scroll into another on his person physically for inspection later. At least the job was done, and all of them were alive. He gave thanks for that. Left panting and sweating a little, Naruto leans back with a groan and admires the wide empty expanse of Anko's back. Sure, she was panting heavily and drooling on the leather that had fallen from her mouth, but she was alive. And if Naruto wanted to guess, he was sure that that was most important to her. Anko would agree with his thoughts if she could read them, but now free to move, she turned her head to make eye contact with him again. I'm guessing we're done. Sure, the spot where her seal had been was on fire and she felt like she had just gone 3 rounds fighting again Might Guy. But she was very much alive. Yup, you're free and clear of that asshole for good. No more seal for you. Sorry I couldn't keep the good parts of the seal like I did for Tayuya. Yours was just an early version that was missing some stuff. If you want though, I'm sure I could build a new seal that does all of the cool stuff is offered without the mental contamination and slavery. Anko shakes her head, tears falling as a nearly lifelong dream was suddenly realized. Thanks, Naruto. I think I'm good though. Looking further past him as Irika smiled at her gently and made his way towards her, the older woman smiled brightly. I think I've had enough of seals placed on me, thank you very much. Standing and unsealing a healing cream, he handed it to Irika and grinned. One of my clones will take you both upstairs where you can rest and Irika can rub you down with the healing cream. Super essential, helps your recovery. He knew the girls wouldn't mind Irika and Anko hanging out with them for a couple days. Well, hopefully they wouldn't mind. Irika can't help himself, reaching around and hugging his friend with all his might. Thank you, Naruto. This means so much. Touched and heart feeling very full at the moment, Naruto nods as Irika pulls away after a minute of contact. I know. It's okay. Now go and take your girl upstairs. The walls are pretty thick, just so you know. Anko leers at Irika as he blushes but makes to pick her weak form off of the floor. Are they now? Irika sweetie, wanna test that? You just had your seal removed, is now really the best time for that? Seeing the affronted look on her face, Irika nods. Of course you think this is the best time. One of the clones came forward and grabbed them both by the shoulder. Traumatize me later, come on. Flashing away while Anko starts giggling, Naruto heaves a relieved sigh and turned to an astonished Jiraiya. So, what do you think? I do good? Good? Kid, that was amazing. You really did put Orochimaru down, huh? Yeah. It was close though. Naruto remembers his stubborn refusal to use the Hiraishin properly or more of his skills all at once. Nearly dying, and the girls treated to the sight of him getting chewed up in order to be revived. Never again. I'm going to be leaving to train with the toad soon. Taking the mental change with ease, Jiraiya nods as Naruto walks around his desk to drop bonelessly into his chair while Jiraiya drops into a seat opposite him. I'll have to pop in from time to time then. Maybe I can offer you some advice and pointers. Plus, it'll be good to catch up. Anything would be appreciated and catching up would be nice. Though I'm looking to blitz through this and return home quickly. I don't want to be away from Uzushio longer than I need to be. The older man nods sagely himself. I understand. You have more than yourself to worry about now and a lot more motivation. Jiraiya unseals a bottle of sake and a couple of glasses, setting everything down on the desk with a grin. Speaking of, have there been any new developments while I was away? It was too bad really that the kid wouldn't let him use them as inspiration. The books they could inspire. They'd be set for life. Filling a glass and handing it to Naruto, he fills his own. You're done well for yourself, brat. But you still have some way to go. Naruto nods, clinking glasses with the old pervert and sighing, I know. But I'm determined to keep moving forward. So much is happening all at once. I can't slow down now. Wanna clue me in? Jiraiya had been focused on Konoha for a while now. It'd be good to get caught up on the world around them again from an outside source. Naruto nods. Are you kidding? Let me bring you up to speed. Naruto could admit to himself that he had missed the old man, the absent godfather. He was still a little pissed off that Jiraiya hadn't been around when he should have been, but he would get around to beating the tar out of the old man later. He'd enjoy what time he had with the man who actually knew his parents in the meantime. He was sure to have plenty of stories for him. First off, the Mizukage? Total babe. I even got her in the bath with the rest of the girls, thought you might be a little interested in that. Laughing and slapping his knee, Jiraiya shakes his head at his godson's impressive luck. No kidding? Tell me all about her. This was a good life. Finally having some time with his godson. He had too many failures to count, but at least he was able to have this. Minato and Kushina would be proud of this kid. He knew that with no doubt in his heart. Scene change. Naruto was having an odd time trying to figure herself out at the moment. Tired. Content. Spent and yet energized. Happy. She was happy. Resting comfortably on her back in bed, she smiled briefly at the snoring Fu at her side. Just as naked as herself, the insect Biju container was cuddled into her side and hugging her tightly like she was a big teddy bear. Sex as a woman certainly was a different experience, nothing like what Naruto had a chance to feel. Idling, Naruto returned to looking up into the rough wooden ceiling, mind quiet for once as a hand played with the other girl's hair. It had not tasted like mint ice cream, as some idle thought had brought up during their dot activities. But that was fine. She did learn that while she couldn't siphon off chakra like some kind of parasite, she could still ingest it. And fluids literally brimming with the stuff? Well, she was good for a few more days yet. She'd have to be careful not to mention that to Fu right away. Bubbly girl might try making food with the stuff and call it her love nectar or some other crazy nonsense. Giggling, Naruto shook her head and gave thanks to her friend. Lover? Best friend? Who cared? Fu was Fu. Naruto didn't plan on leaving her side anytime soon, so she would just have to convince the girl to travel with her from now on. Screw this shitty village, what had they done for her anyway? Turning inward, her mindscape still such an empty place, but at least it wasn't the dank sewer that Naruto had to put up with. Floating in an abyss, Naruto continued to wonder about just what she was. While her memory was a hodgepodge of Naruto's, things were oddly missing. Not everything was there, and yet, there were some things she shouldn't know. Chakra sealing chains? Naruto had never used those, but she remembered using them somehow. What the hell was a Baijidama? And why did her mouth water at the thought of using one? Most frustrating was why did some part of her still feel like she should be able to convert chakra around her, but couldn't? All of it was so confusing, but Fu's words helped center her. Naruto was Naruto. It didn't matter how she had come to be or who exactly had helped her finally exist. What mattered was what she did now, the memories she created today and every day going forward. Of course, her chakra was horribly unbalanced, just like Naruto's and Kurama's. Her chakra naturally settled majority on the inside, her yang chakra minimal at best, enough for her to live, but the imbalance led her to lean more towards, well, she did consider stabbing things as a first and very valid solution to most of her problems. It was who she was, the polar opposite of Naruto himself. Granted, she was sure that with her out here, Naruto himself was probably acting out of character at this point. Probably sparing people and going back to the useless idiot he was back in Konoha. That brought a frown to her face. Was she his more murderous side? Those brief moments where he was more than happy to slice and dice his enemies apart. Shaking her head again and focusing on the warm body at her side, Naruto again reminded herself that she was herself. She was unique. Maybe given some time, she would figure out how to fix her body permanently. Distracted and introspective as she was, her hearing was still sharp enough to hear metal scraping against wood far below them on the forest floor. Instantly on alert, she felt out and latched onto the two human chakra sources below them. So those idiots came back for more, Well, she had an easy way of dealing with judgmental assholes who didn't know when to quit. Carefully extracting herself from under Fu and substituting herself with a pillow which Fu latched onto, Naruto was uncaring of her nakedness as she rolled out of the window and soundlessly made her way into the night, wind wrapping around her to dampen any noise she might make. The night was very chill in this part of the world, and with a full moon it was easy to spot the two Taki ninja who were making some sort of carving into Fu's tree. Odd. What were they doing? Hurry up. Getting word out to that monster was hard enough. He needs to know where to find this bitch. Shut up, I'm trying to do this quietly so we don't wake the bug. Carving away in order to make a seal, they both missed Naruto lithely landing on the ground behind them without a sound. Nails sharpening into claws, Naruto considered her options. One of the guys was distracted and busy, while the other was watching on. Better disable him first then. Silent as the wraith she was, it was a second to grab hold of the taller man, one hand over his mouth while another wrapping around his waist. Instantly wrapping them both in wind and pulling him backwards, it was with a sharp jerk that she broke his neck. All of the noise generated was contained within their little bubble, and for that Naruto was grateful. Gently lowering him to the ground and watching his fearful eyes realize that while he wasn't dead yet, he certainly was paralyzed, she couldn't help the bloodthirsty grin that spread on her face. Releasing him to the dirt and putting a finger to her lips, she stood again and turned to his friend. And there. Whispering still and unaware of what was going on behind him, the Taki nin stepped back to admire his work. The locator seal should start pulling in chakra and pinging that man soon enough. Now let's go before Dash a fist smashed him against the tree, stunning him and leaving him at the mercy of a clawed hand that plunged into his lower back. With a scream as he lost all feeling in his legs, he was tossed roughly into the dirt to be met with wide red eyes and a mouth with way too many teeth. Www what the hell? Gasping in pain and clawing his way backwards, he cursed his luck. So the monster girl from earlier hadn't left. You fucking monster. You can't do this. Where was his brother? Why wasn't the asshole keeping watch? Naruto shrugged, licking the blood off of her hands with a grin. I mean. I just did? There was another way to get chakra, wasn't there? Eating her form was a bit more fluid, not actually flesh and blood. She began to open her mouth wider, say. You're gonna help me spend more time with Airhead-chan. I wonder what you taste like. You won't get away with this, Taki will wonder where we went. They'll blame her. You know they will. Wider still, more teeth, Naruto's eyes were full of malice. You want me to be a monster, don't you? Why would a monster care about the worries of humans? What the hell was she? Why were there so many teeth and it was so dark, and why was her chest beginning to open? 1-0. No. Stay away. Scream sealed within a dome of wind chakra, he was silenced as a gaping maw closed down around his head. Not even a meter away, his partner watched helplessly as his friend was devoured by that thing. That wasn't a human. Wasn't some shit luck demon container. No. Whatever that was, it was a true demon itself. DDD. Barely able to move his mouth, and vision dimming, the last thing he knew were twin glowing red orbs staring down at him. Yeah. This works out just fine. I'll protect Airhead-chan from anyone and everyone. And then there was visceral crunching as a body was ripped and chewed apart, no screams to fill the night. Hours later, as the sun begins to filter through the open window of Fu's home, the lady of the house stretches and moans from her spot in bed. Mind still slightly foggy and taking a minute to wonder why she was waking up naked, with a start she shot up and took stock of her situation. Where was Naruto? Did she dispel in the middle of the night? Did she leave? Looking around frantically, she spied the girl in question flitting about the kitchen, cooking what smelled like pancakes while a plate of eggs was already on the counter. Having dressed in a pair of Fu's white biker shorts and pulled her hair into a ponytail to keep free of the food, Naruto sees her up and offers her a calming smile. Hey there, sleepyhead, you sleep well? I hope you're hungry. Relaxing and releasing a breath she didn't realize she was holding, Fu smiles back to her, good morning, and yeah, I slept like the dead. Someone wore me out. Giggling as Naruto shook her head and turned off the burner. A new pancake was flipped onto a waiting stack. Watching Naruto walk her way, she grinned mischievously and pulled the surprised girl back into bed. Boo it, I wouldn't mind a repeat. Last night had been wonderful. No reason not to experience it again, and often. Naruto chuckled and shook her head, you're so spoiled. A soft kiss landed on her lips, but that's the cute part of you, Fu-chan. Fu was beginning to trail kisses down her collar, the food is going to get cold. Naruto didn't really care. She was still technically full. Those assholes had given her at least a few weeks' worth of chakra if she didn't do anything crazy. That was enough. We can reheat it later. Giggles filtered through the window, followed soon by soft moans. Down below them at the base of the tree was a seal with 5 claw marks running through it. Weak green chakra still filtered from it, but not much else. Omake Suigetsu had made good time back to Kiri and had no problems being directed once he made land and dropped Naruto's name. As evening dropped over the land of water, it was how he was taken quickly to the Mizuki's office and found himself before the desk of a super beautiful woman flanked by some old guy and some wimp. Shrugging as he bowed, he stood completely and offered a lazy grin their way. Mei was curious about the boy who had dropped Naruto's name in order to make his way to her. So you wanted to use my resources to find someone for Lord Uzumaki? Suigetsu nods. Oh yeah. Yuzushio Ninja saved me from a lab of Orochimaru's and sent me on my way back home. Figured I could do what he asked and say hello to this Mei woman of his before I get back to my own quest. His Mei woman, And didn't that just set her heart aflutter? So Naruto considered her one of his, did he? Well, she'd have to discuss that matter with him later. And what is your quest? I plan on collecting all of the remaining heavenly swords of the previous Kiri swordmen. Then I want to rebuild the swordman's core. Lazying putting his hands on his hips, he eyes the wimp with the massive sword on his back. Guess I can ignore that one, unless the kid is no good with it. Holding up a hand as the usually meek Chojuro growls, Mei can't help but like the brash boy. Well, I'll be sure to get a hold of Naruto soon to express my gratitude for him sending one of my ninja back. Nodding and not wanting to get involved with politics, Suigetsu keeps his grin on his face. Welp, if you can just point me in the direction of this Mei Terumi, I'll be on my way. Mei shakes her head lightly, leaning back in her chair with a smile, say. You seem to have some talent, and you want to rebuild the core, right? Why not do so under my banner? Chojuro is already working on it, and we could use the help. Here she grins and idly traces a hand along her robes. You would be working very closely with me. Huh. Work directly under a super hottie and get to rebuild the Swordman Corp? Sign him right the fuck up. Sounds like a good deal to me, beautiful. Eyeing her curvaceous form and doing an admirable job of not developing a nosebleed, he tried not to fantasize about just how closely they could work together. Ao is quick to lean in. Lady Kage, surely his age is an issue. Shouldn't we look for someone a bit more experienced? Hearing Ao talk about her age again, a dainty finger trailing a deadly mist was held up towards his face, forcing him to back away quickly. Ao, shut the fuck up, before I kill you. Face pleasant though she was putting off killing intent, Suigetsu looked to Chojuro, who sighed and slumped his shoulders. Is that normal? Chojuro nods. Every day. It's a quirk of Lady Kage's, you'll get used to it. Suigetsu nods and shrugs. Well, as long as I get to work with a hottie like her, I sure as hell am not going to complain. So. Who is Mei Terumi anyway? Mei giggled and pointed at herself, poison mist vanishing quickly. That would be me. Eye twitching, Suigetsu blinked once. Why, you're Mei Terumi? That's right. The Mizuki? That's right. Her smile became much sweeter. And I hit on you? Yes, you did. Don't kill me? Great, he hit on one of that Uzumaki guy's women. If he found out, he'd probably erase him from existence. Giggling and shaking her head, Mei waves him away. Karujo, please get Suigetsu set up and registered. We still have a lot of work to do. Seeing the boy nod and lead the other sweating young man away, Mei shakes her head and returns to her paperwork. Naruto sure does send me the best presents. Perhaps I owe him some service when I see him next. Wisely, Ao keeps his mouth shut, not wanting to gain her ire anymore today. He mentally decides that the little Casanova needs a beating the next time he sees him though. Sure, he might be a Kage, but he was a kid. Ao surely could take him on with his years of experience. Far away and nestled in the warm bathes of the Uzumaki mansion, Naruto sneezed and sniffed heavily. What the hell? On his left, Koyuki worried over him. You aren't getting sick, are you? Kotohime on his right sighed. That would be a first. I thought you couldn't get sick. I can't, far as I know. Rising from the water in front of him, a disgruntled Tayuya with her hair tied back in a bun raised an eyebrow at him. What was that? Someone's talking about me. Tell em to shut up then, I ain't done yet. Dropping back into the water, Naruto couldn't help but grin. Sure was good to be a Kage. Chapter 56. Work, and more work. Naruto was keeping so busy, he was almost seeing paperwork in his dreams now. Having kept moving for the last week, spamming clones like no one's business in order to settle the Yuki clan into their new home along with giving the ninja port a major progress boost, he was beyond tired. Tazuna and the Zosensho had been more than impressed with his efforts on that end, but even they had cautioned him and eventually petitioned for him to slow it down and relax. It had taken a little coaxing before he had finally taken the hint, but he couldn't help it. The port was a massive undertaking, and he wanted to have his mind clear when he left to go train. He didn't want to be thinking about what ifs or maybes. Sighing and laying back to stare at the clouds, he wondered if learning the Mokuton was possible. Certainly would help with construction. The roof of the Uzumaki Tower was a good place to actually rest and relax when he wanted to, and today found him in the company of Jiraiya the Toad Sage, who was nudging him and offering him a cup. Taking the warm drink, tea today thankfully, Naruto sits up and takes a sip. You've been running yourself ragged. Think you might want to slow it down? Naruto has no problem agreeing with the thought, yeah. I don't know. Have had this urge to just get things done. I can't explain it. Well, whichever is going on with you, make sure to take it easy. Relax. Breath. Training won't do you any good if you have to recuperate when you get there. Jiraiya holds his gaze out over the Uzushio city. Besides, you're young, you have time. Don't rush to do everything so soon. Live a little. Plus, secretly Jiraiya was a little worried. Something in Iwao was making moves, the Akatsuki were back to hunting the Jinchuriki, and something was going on far to the east. He couldn't bring any of that up though, not without some proof. Have something you absolutely want to see done? Naruto shook his head, not really now. With the Yuki and the Zosensho settled in for the most part, from here on I'll relax and wait for the Riptide teams to return. Once they do, I'll say my goodbyes, and we'll go. I'm sure Fukasaku-sama is more than ready to see me. Jiraiya chuckled as he thought about Pa and his rantings lately. I think he wanted to see you a while ago. Your chakra control has been more than up to snuff for a while now. Which worried the sage a bit. It had put him another step closer towards beginning to mess with his seal, and friendly with the Biju or not, it was still a risk. Maybe a change of subject, you ready to be a dad? Fuck no. Answer instant, Naruto shrunk in on himself a bit, I'll be 16 this year, it's way earlier than we ever thought this would happen. Honestly, if it hadn't been the older girls, Koyuki and Kotoheim, he'd be much more worried. But they assured him that everything would be fine. Personally, he didn't think so until he could absolutely promise that they could have peaceful lives. Sometimes I think about running. Loading up an airship with everyone and some supplies, and just flying away. Beyond the sea, to a new land. Without the Akatsuki, or power-hungry Kage, or any of the nonsense we have to put up with. The sage resting a thick hand on his head and tussling his hair, Naruto looked up as Jiraiya grinned at him. You know, I think all parents have worries like that, at least once or twice. Your dad was so worried, he made himself sick. But he wanted you. Was so excited to have you, and your mom? Woo, that woman would have taken on entire armies for you. Eyes going distant as he looked out over his city, Naruto can't help but wish for even a few minutes with said parents. They really wanted me that much, huh? Like you wouldn't believe. Heh. Chuckling and ignoring the tight feeling in his chest, Naruto downs his tea, hope I'm doing them proud. I'm sure you are, kid. Look at this, the Uzumaki clan has been resurrected, Uzushio has revived, you're a well-known and powerful ninja. Don't think you could have done much better. Naruto frowned though, mind going towards one of his major worries, except I need to worry about Kumo and their bullshit. Finally had a chance to sit down and really question Yujito. Having moved her to a more plush room in the tower basement, Yujito was taking it as an extended vacation and was giving him any and all information that he asked for. Which for him right now, including all the information she had about the captured Uzumaki and Kumo. None of the information was pretty, but it was necessary to have. Jiraiya however refills Naruto's cup and sighs, be careful. The current Raikage is a proud and stubborn man and he didn't get that title without being excessively powerful. Tread lightly. The older man frowned a bit as Naruto turned to look at him, he's prone to contradicting himself sometimes, so whatever he says, if it's good for Kumo, he'll ignore it. It's going to go one of two ways I think. Naruto is frowning as he begins to sip his tea again, either we can talk it out, or I rip my family free from Kumo by force. Jiraiya wishes that he could talk Naruto away from any rash actions, but this is family they were talking about. Dangling Uzumaki clan members in front of him was like taunting an enraged bull. One capable of destroying villages. There really isn't much of a in-between when dealing with A, so be careful, but don't hesitate. Behind them, there's a shuffle of movement, and both men look back to see a smiling Karen coming towards them. Wind tugging at her bangs, the rest of her hair pulled into a neat bun, she adjusted her glasses with a smile. You've gotten a call. Konoha. Groaning as he finally decides to stand as it looks like he had taken enough of a break, Naruto grins down at the older man. Guess that's my cue. I'll be on my way. Waving his apprentice away, Jiraiya motions out to the distance. You better hold true to your plan on leaving. Or you're going to keep making excuses and stall. Turning away with a frown, Naruto knows that Jiraiya is probably talking from experience there. I know. As soon as Hinata and the others return, I'll say my goodbyes. A slight pause before he half turns back to the sage. You coming? Nah. Think I'm going to sit and enjoy the view for a little bit. Let the world pass me by. Don't always need to have a clear goal after all. Sure, old man. Don't get yourself into trouble. Waving, Naruto leaves with Karen. Something within him was anxious, had been all week, and he couldn't figure it out. It was part of why he had been keeping busy. Hopefully it was just the worry about leaving for training. At least it better be just that. Scene change overdoing it as usual, Naruto had provided a clone to Riptide Team 2, dropping Tayuya and the girls off in Suna so they could make their way quickly towards the last known sighting of their target. Getting a general idea from local reports, they began to wander from Watering Hole to Town Oasis in search of the singular Akatsuki member. After a week of wandering and enduring the hot sun, they finally had a lead. Getting the description of a large man draped in a black cloak with red clouds headed towards a secluded oasis towards the southwest, the girls made their way eagerly in hopes of catching up. This lead was sure to pan out, as Ino noted, this oasis was the one that held the sound base, or rather, used to. Taking precautions early by checking over their equipment and donning their respective Uzumaki masks, Hinata leads the way as they vow to make this quick. Ino can't help but tease as hot sand digs between her toes. Maybe if we're lucky we can call Naruto and have him give us a reward personally after we drop this bounty off. Hinata sighs but doesn't turn back to swat her friend. Do you have any thoughts in that blonde head of yours besides sex? Do you? Tayuya chuckles from Hinata's other side, listening to the smaller girl growl. You're both perverts, get over it. Ino points at her lazily, happy that the older girl had finally ditched the beanie and had taken to wearing her hair in a wild mane behind her, says the girl who has been getting some extra time lately. You trying to catch up to Kotoheim and Koyuki? Ino and Hinata had considered it themselves, but decided that it was still too early. Soon though. Blushing but keeping her balance as they started to rise over a dune, Tayuya coughed into a fist. I don't know what you mean. Hinata wagged a finger at her. I caught you in the library the other day. Ino joined in, and don't think I didn't notice you under his desk yesterday. Well. Hinata activated her eyes to check their progress, just to see that the area was still clear, and you outlasted Karen and Onoka the other evening. Okay. So I've needed a little more love recently. That a crime? In her heart, she was still worried. Something was different. Not wrong. But something was tugging her to stay close to Naruto, and her feelings just kept overflowing. There was nothing wrong with that. Giggling, Ino shook her head as Hinata waved them forward to continue over another dune, not saying there is, and no one is complaining about it. Certainly not. They all had been a little more affectionate lately. Probably the stress of knowing he would be gone soon. Hinata sighed and finally turned back towards Ino. Should we focus on the mission, super slut? Sure thing, thunder tits. Both girls shared a laugh before Ino really does focus. It is odd, isn't it, that Akatsuki would send out one guy, alone? Don't they run pairs? Hinata nods. Sure, but maybe this is Deidara's partner. Maybe he just hasn't gotten a new partner yet? That, or maybe he's like Naruto and is unnecessarily good with clones, or something. Tayuya chimed in, happy the topic had been changed. Ino groaned and waved that evil away from them. Kami, I hope not. Fighting Naruto is like fighting against a really well-coordinated army. Nearly impossible. Seeing both girls nod, Ino gives a silent prayer that it's just the guy being arrogant as hell. Morning passing into afternoon and the sun beginning to dip down into the sky, Hinata hums as she locks onto a chakra signature. Huh. There's something ahead of us. Something? Tayuya is instantly focused as Senbon launchers appear on Ino's wrists, previously hidden under orange arm warmers. Can you elaborate? Not really. It's man-shaped, yeah. But the chakra is all wrong. Not really a network. Maybe a puppet and the man is inside? Hinata tried her best to focus deeper, but the signal inside the man-shaped shell didn't make much sense either. Yes, for sure the outer cover is just a puppet while there is another thing that is man-shaped inside of it. From there, it's anyone's guess. Still leading the way, she pauses them as they come to the crest of a dune where she thinks on it a bit harder as she analyzes the man. This has to be Daidara's old partner. Sasori of the Red Sand, the puppet user. Tayuya frowns, well shit. So it's not just him we're fighting, but all his fucking puppets? Hinata nods, he's an abomination. Being closer now, she could focus more clearly on the cluster of flesh that remained of the puppet user. How could anyone go so far in modifying themselves? Could you even be considered human at that point? Without a puppet, you wouldn't even be able to interact with the world at all. Let's put it down quickly. Ino noticed the change in Hinata's tone and nodded along, sure thing. Let's trash him and head back to Suna for our bounty. I'd bet good money they'll pay up big time for this guy. That was why they were out here after all, making money for the city. Tayuya cautions them both, remember, he's a puppet user. So anything and everything he has is most likely poisoned. Try not to get close if you can help it. Ino shrugs, I've been building up my poison resistance, but I'll still do my best to keep my distance. Sucks for you though, Hinata. I might have something for it. I only need one moment, one hit. Hinata was still a practitioner of the Juken. She could shred what was left of the puppet master in an instant if she could get close. Tayuya mentally tallies it all up before grinning behind her mask, that's the plan then. Ino leads, Hinata look for an opening and I'll support with my doki. I'll keep my seal in reserve as a last resort. Just in case. Seeing both women with her nod and prepare themselves, they charge over the dune to a waiting and bored-looking Sasori. Hunched over and relaxed within his main puppet Hiriko, the large and heavily armored puppet offered him the best protection. I thought I felt some small fry coming my way. Any chance I can convince you to go back the way you came? He really wasn't in the mood for a battle today. Only here to check on the rumor he heard about the sound base in this area. He had been curious about his sleeper agent. I'd rather not waste the effort. Tayuya can't help but smirk and adopt a haughty pose, flute appearing in her hand, you know something, that was just what I was thinking. Such a windbag surely won't be much of an issue. You sure are loud. Your type usually dies first. Sasori watched as the women before him began to fan out, must we? You aren't Suna ninja, so what business do you have with me? Hinata grinned as Tayuya summoned her doki behind her, we just want your head, nothing serious. Of course, none of the girls could forgive the terrorist group for attempting to hunt down Naruto, and those like him. As far as Foxden was concerned, every member of Akatsuki had two options. Surrender and pledge their loyalty to Naruto, or die. Sasori just shrugged, bored and still uninterested in the weak-looking ninja, you may try like so many others. At the least, you might make for some interesting additions to my collection. All three women look at each other for a moment before they burst into action. Tayuya leaping back as she begins to play, her doki closing in while Ino swings left to harass their target with Senbon while Hinata swings right but stays out of reach for now. Deftly dodging or deflecting attacks on his person, Sasori can't help but sigh. Just as he thought, they really were weak. I know our leader has spoken with yours, if you leave now I'll forget this ever happened. Sure, Pain had said that there was no alliance between them and to resume hunting all of the other Jinchuriki, but all the same Sasori didn't want to fight right now if he didn't have to. He had other business to attend. Shield coming up to protect him against a heavy strike from the club-wielding doki, Sasori frowned just a bit as his defense began to crack. Hinata was grinning, holding chakra into her fists while releasing seals all along her body, wind and gravity augmentations leaving her body light and powerful. If anything, you should have run when you had the chance. Feeling lighter and faster than she ever had in her life, Hinata dug in one foot and dashed forward. Slipping through the legs of the clawed doki while the club doki jumped away, her right arm was reared back for a massive strike. Caught off guard by the sudden sprint, Sasori was a second late to mount a defense as a deceptively delicate palm slammed into his side. Hiriko bursts apart in an explosion of force, chakra dispersing into the air while Sasori himself is sent flipping through the air to right himself and land among the sand. Eyes wide as he began to focus properly, he turned to watch the confident-looking Hinata walking through his puppet's remains. Impressive, so you do have some skill. To destroy Hirako in one hit is a testament to your strength. Smirk still in place, Hinata began to hop from foot to foot much as Naruto would. Get ready, because I have plenty more of that. Being set upon again by the summoned demons, Sasori decides to get serious. Young though they may be, the three of them were powerful. Twisting away from a claw strike before jumping away from a launched brace of Senbon, the Akatsuki member nodded once. I guess then, I'll have to kill you. She did destroy his puppet after all. Idly holding up a hand and knocking away several Senbon that were launched towards him, he waggled a finger towards the visibly frustrated Ino as he landed among the blocked weapons. Those won't work on me. He missed all of the Senbon beginning to smolder. Giving him the finger, Ino let the unarmed Doki grab and toss her away with its covered mouth. Sure about that. Watching her weapons explode, she backflipped once, before landing on the sand from where the Doki had tossed her to safety. You should remember who my husband is. Getting Naruto to help modify her Senbon was easy enough. With the added benefit of some late nights alone. The echo of the explosion still rocking the area, the three young women and the Doki waited to see what would be coming from the dust cloud. A small breeze blowing him clear, Sasori frowns as he is immediately set upon by the Doki again. He removed the last bits of his cloak and started to press an offensive. Sliding between the legs of the unarmed Doki and slashing into its ankles with the fan blades at his hips to slow it down, he weaves away from a horizontal strike from the clawed Doki. Taking hold of the spiked cable at his abdomen, he used it to block several strikes from the larger creature. Weaving around a wide strike, his own weapon found itself digging into the beast with ease. Already though he could see Hinata shooting his way and jumping back with all his augmented might, he frowned as he realized he was actually at a disadvantage here. Continuing backwards quickly with the use of his hip blades, Sasori summoned one of his favorite puppets. Why don't I entertain you with the third Kazekage? Smoke rising in the sky for a moment, all of the Uzumaki women were treated to the grotesque and enlarged human puppet that once was the Kazekage of old. Draped in a worn and dirty cloak, the mummified and modified form had been heavily changed, locked now in an eternity of anguish. It was a tough battle between the Kazekage and I, but I came out on top in the end. So as a reward to myself, I turned him into a living puppet so he could always battle for me. Beautiful, isn't it? Your prime and perfection, forever locked and unchanging. All three of them shivering, Tayuya brought her flute back to her lips while knowing for sure that Naruto would never work with this man. You're fucking dying. Club Doki racing forward while the clawed Doki was a step behind it, the unarmed one was still healing, but should be up soon. Directing them to attack the puppet, she wanted to feel out just what new craziness were they dealing with. The Club Doki was first to strike, its kanabo arced over its head to smash the Kazekage into the sand. An almost river of metallic sand spews out from the puppet's mouth, while the left arm comes up to block the attack. Several compartments open up all along the wooden arm to begin spawning more and more arms to help protect it. The kanabo comes down, smashing through several arms, but eventually it is stopped. Attempting to push through, the Doki is forced away as the cloud of iron sand shapes itself into a spear that attempts to bisect it. More cautious now, Tayuya frowns and changes her song, both of her still fighting Doki now changing to hit and run tactics while she thinks the situation through. She would like to switch their energy hunter mode, but if Hinata was right and he was barely human as it was, would that even work against the puppet master? Doubtful. Watching iron sand form into a wall to stop a charge from the Club Doki, while the clawed Doki tried and failed to decapitate the Kazekage puppet, she frowned even more. Ino and Hinata wouldn't be able to get close at this rate, and that hindered their abilities quite a lot. Seeing her third Doki finally healed enough to fight, she sent it on a straight charge. Maybe she could weigh the puppet down instead. Sasori watched the summons fight against his puppet with some amusement, knowing that it was fruitless. Already the summons were beginning to tire, the poison most likely beginning to take its toll on them. Wishing he could smirk, Sasori planned out what his next move would be. Smartly the three women were keeping back, away from the battle but watching his every move, most likely looking for an opening to strike him directly. He'd have to keep an eye on the girl with the blue mask at the least. To so easily shatter a puppet, she could surely do the same to him if given the chance. You're all going to wish you had just turned around and left me be. Taunting them as he directed the Kazekage to push away the two attacking Doki, he frowned as the previously injured third rushed in. Such an open attack was simple to respond to, and directed his puppet to do so. Tayuya gives a silent thanks as her third doki takes the Kazakage's right arm to the gut before purposefully dragging itself further onto the appendage and dropping down to the sand, dragging the puppet with it. Grinning, Tayuya changed her tune again, wishing she could taunt Sasori. The clawed doki is met with a literal wall of arms as Sasori responds near instantly, but her club doki rushes from behind the impaled and dying doki, getting a good hit in and smashing into the chest of the Kazakage puppet. Iron sand comes up in a deadly wave in an attempt to snare them, but both doki again leap away. Sasori grunts and changed tactics accordingly. You're going to make some wonderful puppets after I kill you, since you're working so well together as a team. Forming the sand into several spears, a thin but dense wall, and a sword, Sasori pointed straight towards Tayuya. Just imagine, fighting for me as your prime being for eternity. Wouldn't it be liberating? Going on the attack and setting the doki to dodging and fending for themselves, he started to gain ground on their mistress. Ino dispersed her chakra into the sand, realizing quickly that her earth manipulation was going to be much harder here than normal. But, as she began to literally skate across the dunes, she did now have a speed advantage. And with the control boost given by the brown Oni mask she now wore, she considered that like Hinata, she might just find an opening to do some damage. You know, being young and pretty forever wouldn't be so bad. Jumping and twisting as the large iron sword sliced through the air where she had just been, Ino gave him the finger. I'll have to bring it up with my husband later. I'm sure he could figure something out. Running in the other direction, chakra cycling through her blue Hanya mask as a lattice of blue barriers grew around her, Hinata chuckled as she dodged and weaved between spears dead set on impaling her. You do need all the help you can get, don't you? Thankfully Lord Husband enjoys me thoroughly just as I am. Ino can't help but return Hinata's laugh with a just as haughty one of her own. Gravity will be your downfall one day. Bouncing from foot to foot as she gauges the spear's reaction times, Hinata dashes away and offers Ino a peace sign. It's okay. Not all of us can be so gifted. Tayuya shakes her head as her injured doki finally dispels, leaving her down to two that were themselves slowing rapidly. As fun as the banter is, anyone have an idea of how to get around this asshole's magnet release? Getting back to playing quickly, something rapid and flighty, she subtly began to course and pull chakra from her seal. She might be getting close and personal soon, and she really hopes that they didn't bite off more than they could chew. Because as it was right now, the puppet user certainly seemed to be the one in control here. 3-on-1 seemed like an easy choice at first, but now? Well, he wasn't really just one guy, was he? Body growing with muscle, skin darkening and a crown of horns growing on her head, Tayuya was ready to turn things up. Hinata shakes her head, still dodging and making no headway closer to the puppet or its master. I just need a moment of distraction. Ino called out immediately, you'll get it, kicking up dust as she increased her speed even more. She weaved and danced with the sword that was doing its best to kill her. Having to twist backwards to avoid a vicious swing, Ino watched as a strand of hair was cut from her ponytail. Irritated, she reached deeper into the earth for anything usable, and finally smirked. Bingo! Augmenting herself and landing a roundhouse kick to the approaching blade, she sent it flying high into the air as she planted her hands down into the sand, grinning at Sasori. How's this? Dozens of earth spikes began to rise from and return to the sand from different spots, repeatedly, all around Sasori. Forced to dodge and jump away from the very earth began trying to kill him, Sasori now had to seriously focus on two of his opponents while keeping an eye on the third. Grunting, he took stock of things. The music user was keeping the Kazakage busy. The blonde was now badgering him with earth spikes and preventing retaliation with careful earth walls, and the blue-haired one was planning something deadly. Perhaps summoning more puppets would be the prudent move from here. No, wait. His spear strikes were getting closer and closer to their target, while the earth user was as well producing less attacks. They were slowing, which was good news for him after all. While you indeed have talent, I believe this is the end here. No one has pushed me this hard since the third, so at least die with that pride in your hearts. Seeing a moment, Ino dashes from behind her earth barrier, to intercept the Kazakage puppet. Launching herself into the air as the club doki smashes away the puppet's right arm, though with the sacrifice of the clawed doki falling victim to being tied and strangled by the many arms on the left. Smirking, she applies as much earth chakra to her body as she can stand, skin darkening as she strikes down hard towards the puppet. Eat this. Not as adept as Hinata with chakra control, Ino did however have a stronger muscle build and bone strength due to all of her earth training. So as her clenched fist came down and made contact with the puppet's left shoulder, it exploded into shards of wood and metal. Almost immediately, the wound vented poisonous gas, and Ino braced her feet against the puppet's chest to jump away with all of her might. Hopefully her mask, along with her poison training, would protect her from whatever she just inhaled, but it was worth it. Then she was hit with a cube of raw iron, rocketed away into the side of a dune with a groan. She was alive at least, hardened skin weathering the hit for the most part. Sasori focuses completely on Ino, iron sand welling up to produce dozens of spears. I'm going to enjoy every second of killing you. Stumbling as a burst of chakra expelled from his chest, Sasori looked back as a palm covered in chakra rested on where his core was housed. Effect immediate, the Kazakage puppet and all associated iron sand dropped to the ground. Chakra strings dissolving, Sasori grunts and manages a half-step. How? Hinata grins behind her mask, your abominable life is over, pass on into hell, you monster. Watching the puppet drop lifelessly to the ground, Hinata watches as all remaining chakra drained from the body and the flesh core before sighing with some relief and relaxing. That had been much too close for her liking. Tayuya dispels her doki, jogging towards Hinata as Ino does the same, though a bit slower. How the hell did you do that? Sure, she knew Hinata could take people out in one hit, but they usually had a bit more life in them than that before going out. He did more than just make human puppets. Closer now and able to get a good look at him, Tayuya and Ino gasped in shock at the wooden body laying before them. He turned his own body into a puppet. The only part of him that was alive was in that cylinder. Reaching down and pulling said cylinder free from the puppet, all of the girls nearly gagged at the sucking sound it made as it came free. Leaking blood and clear fluid, Hinata set about sealing it away. Whatever he was in the end, he wasn't human anymore. Shit. To think anyone would go so far. Tayuya shivered to think that this was what the guy wanted to do with them. Beyond atrocious. Well, at least we got him. Panting and rubbing her stomach as she finally returned her chakra to normal, Ino stood up straight and sighed, let's get all this sealed up and get a move on. I'm done with this desert heat. Hinata turned eyes to her laboring friend, Byakugan activating for a moment. Ino. Are you okay? Never better. Holding up a muscled arm and flexing, she's hit with racking coughs for a moment before both Tayuya and Hinata notice the blood that begins to leak from Ino's mask. Pushing up her mask and removing it, Ino groans as her body begins to heat up. Well, shit. Maybe I'm not doing so hot. Switching her blue Hanya mask for a green one, Hinata is on her in an instant, running glowing green hands all over the other girl. Moron. We were supposed to keep our distance, remember? Ino nodded as Tayuya set about sealing away the puppets so they could leave, now in a hurry. Yeah, well. You needed an opening. Tayuya giving her a thumbs up, said girl kept her seal active as she tossed Ino on her back and they began dashing back towards Suno with all speed, Hinata keeping next to her to keep healing chakra running through Ino. You're starting to turn into Naruto. Ino chuckled weakly, relaxing into Tayuya's back. I don't think that's such a bad thing. If you die, he's going to drag you back with a huge I told you so. All three shuddered as they remembered hazing Naruto for much of the same behavior with Orochimaru. He'd never let them live this down. Yay, any chance we can keep this between us girls? Getting a grunt from Tayuya and a disapproving glare from Hinata, Ino sighed. Yup, didn't think that was going to happen. Tayuya growled and wished, again, that she had paid attention when Naruto tried explaining the Hiraishin to her. Take your lumps like a big girl, you'll be fine. Yeah. I know I will be. Tired all of a sudden, Ino just relaxed and let Hinata do her best to heal her. She knew her shorter friend wouldn't let her die just because of a scratch or two. Hinata watched Ino pass out with a sigh but gave a thumbs up to Tayuya. Looks like I can purge the poison from her system, mostly. Might need some specialist work from Karen when we get back to Yuzu. But I should have her back on her feet by this evening. Good. We want to show Naruto that we can handle things without him. Even if he's going to give us shit for this. Tayuya wondered briefly just how well received this report was going to be, and figured Naruto wasn't going to be completely happy about it. Nothing for it now, all they could do was face the music. Scene change, Fu was happy. It had been an amazing week with Naruto, and as she sat on her porch swinging her legs and looking out over the forests, she was looking forward to what was coming next. She had gotten a mission to patrol along their border where something suspicious had been noticed. She had noted that Shibuki-sama had seemed down when he had given the order, but Fu waved it off. There was talk that a couple of ninja had been missing and most likely that was what was bringing him down. But she couldn't be bothered with it right now. With as much time as she had been spending with Naruto, and all the convincing the girl had been working on her, Fu was ready to leave. Naruto had been telling her that they should just head to the border and just not come back, but Fu at least wanted to complete this last mission. Turning and looking as the door opened, Fu grinned at the other girl as she walked out in her freshly cleaned clothes and a pack that she sealed into a scroll. Seeing her usual clothes on, Fu pouts a little. I miss the bikini already. Rolling her eyes, Naruto has her hands on her hips as she comes to stand next to the sitting girl. You get to see me naked whenever you want anyway. No pouting. She agreed with Naruto, she was surrounded by perverts. Do we complain about seeing the same beautiful sunrise? No? Same thing. Giggling as Naruto bopped her on the head, Fu took a moment to roll to her feet. Ready? As ever. What's the plan? Naruto had promised that she would follow after Fu for as long as she was able. Maybe they could make it back to Yuzu before she kicked the bucket. Fu gently takes one of Naruto's hands into hers. We're headed south to the border. I'll relieve the guards there and we'll be on patrol for 2 or 3 days. From there we'll be relieved and then you and I can go our way. Fu turns a shy look to the woman at her side. Are you sure you want to stick with me? I'm sure there's so much you'd rather see or do. Nah. My place is right here. I'm not letting you out of my sight. Something about all of this didn't sit well with her. There wasn't enough of an uproar about 2 ninjas suddenly disappearing within the village borders. And now Fu was being sent off alone without a team? Nope. Naruto was on the lookout for backstabbing, though she would keep her thoughts to herself. Smiling and nodding once, Fu forms her wings and takes to the air, Naruto half a second behind her with their hands still linked and body shrouded in wind. I can carry you, you know? I don't want you to burn through your chakra for no reason. Naruto wiggled her eyebrows at the other girl. Between all the good food and our daily activities, I'm full and ready to go. Getting a giggle and a blush from the other girl as she had hoped, Naruto credited it more to eating those 2 ninja. While she didn't want to get used to doing that, she'd go through anything to protect this woman at her side. So eating some assholes from time to time was a good choice. Nearly an hour ticks by as the pair fly low over the tree cover, but eventually Fu motions down and the pair drop down below the canopy. Switching to tree hopping for the last bit of their journey, Naruto artfully flips and twists between the tree branches as they continue on. So, should I hang back while you report in? I'm sure they wouldn't like some random ninja hanging around, right? Fu shakes her head slowly. It should be fine, I'll just tell them I hired you since I didn't have a full team. She didn't want to hide away her best friend, maybe girlfriend? She'd have to figure that out. I'll lead the way with reporting and then we'll get to work. Giving Naruto a bright smile, Fu sticks out her tongue, then we can relax. Naruto followed along as Fu eventually dropped down to ground level, a small but well-used guard shack nestled between 3 trees that had grown together. Looks like shit. Fu swatted her on the arm as she walked by her. Be nice. We're going to be here for the next week or so. Naruto shrugged. As long as there's a bed, I do not care. I still vote we go straight to Uzushio. You just want me all to yourself. Fu looks at the blonde from over her shoulder as she makes her way towards the shack. Duh. Naruto doesn't refute the claim, knowing very well that it was true. You know, I wouldn't mind another week of just you and me and dash. The shack explodes outward, a red scythe rushing towards them and forcing the girls to jump away hurriedly. Coming together and watching a pair of figures walk around from the smoke, Fu looks worriedly towards Naruto. This isn't how guard duty is usually swapped out. If Naruto could roll her eyes any harder, she would, you don't say? Watching as the scythe is tugged back into the dust, her heart sinks as the cloud clears and 2 men bearing black cloaks with red clouds stand before them, one of the men with silver hair rubbing his head while the older dark-skinned man next to him berates him. How the hell do you miss such easy targets? Had them completely by surprise too. Kakuzu wanted to punch his partner, but that'd only force him to have to heal the crazy religious nut job. Get off my back. It was dark in there, bare-chested and smirking. Haydn looked out at the women before him. You try fighting with a hangover. Get it together, this is the 7 tails we're dealing with. We almost lost her too, with that beacon seal dying out. Kakuzu didn't normally keep contact with the village that labeled him a traitor, but they still contacted him from time to time for more lucrative jobs. Let's get this over with and drag her to leader. On guard and positioning herself slightly in front of Naruto, Fu frowned and began to well up her chakra. You've picked the wrong pair today. Naruto gives the pair a carefully made bored look as she lazily pointed a finger at them. Who are you supposed to be? Sure, she knew who they were, but names would be good. Any information she could get would be helpful. She didn't have high hopes on her ability to put one of them down. Kakuzu crosses his arms over his broad chest, mouth hidden by a black face mask. Who we aren't isn't important. We're just here for her. That his gaze never left Fu was enough to tell who he was alluding to. You can get lost, if you value your life at the least. Yeah, hunting my girlfriend is a no-no on my list. Gonna have to kill you. She didn't miss the happy squeak from Fu, no hard feelings, you know? Haydn lets his grin grow even wider, just another wonderful sacrifice to Lord Jashin. Men, women, children, it doesn't matter, all are welcome in his embrace. You're a monster. The beginning of a chakra cloak begins to form around Fu as her anger gets the best of her. That's rich coming from the bug girl. Haydn quips back as he adjusts the grip on his scythe and lowers his stance. I'm looking forward to tearing you apart. Dashing forward to start his attack, he heads straight for Fu as the Jinchuriki takes to the air. I'll be clipping those wings. Naruto pulls free twin kunai and considers her options. Letting Fu fight alone was of course off the table. Making to dash after the pair, her way is stalled by an earth wall. Well shit. I'll entertain you then, since you're so keen on throwing your life away. Kakuzu felt like entertaining this child for now, not willing to put more effort into it than necessary. Fu was focused, twirling to avoid the red three-bladed scythe sent her way and avoiding the cable attached to it as well. Flying around a tree and attempting to get close, she's forced back as the scythe returns faster than she would have expected. Haydn never stops grinning as he presses his advantage. Just you wait. I'm going to rip those wings off you and offer your soul to my god. Gotta be able to hit me first. Frowning as she watches his weapon tear through first a tree and then another, Fu again tries to rush towards him. Your aim could use some work. Come say that to my face, little bitch. Recalling his scythe and watching the cable snag on a broken branch, Haydn grins as the smaller girl takes the bait, rushing straight towards him. Planning on slitting his throat as she flies past, Fu prays her luck holds and tightens her grip on her kunai and pours on the speed. Easy win. Thrusting her kunai forward as she comes within range, her eyes widen as a second weapon, a blood-red spike attached to the other end of the cable is drawn in his other hand. She tries to twist away, her kunai grazing his throat deep enough to draw blood while his weapon draws a line of blood along her arm. Flying up and away, ignoring the pain, she gives thanks that she made a killing wound. Hope your god doesn't mind you dying instead. Beginning to chuckle as he begins to make his ritual seal with his own blood, Haydn turns to face the confused woman. He, oh you're fucked now. Licking her blood from his weapon and finally retrieving his scythe, he completes the seal and his skin begins to darken. Time to pay in your blood. Fu frowned deeply as she watched the man bleed himself out. Why wasn't he dying? What the hell was going on? What the hell are you? Your end. Glee written all over his face, Haydn brought his spike down into his leg. Not far away and a few minutes back, Naruto is doing her best to evade and keep away from the calm and collected Kakuzu, who is still trying to convince her to leave them be. We're only after the container, I could care less about you. Carefully making a shunshin to get away from several earth spikes, Naruto takes a moment to hide out behind a tree. Full getaway easy enough, and then I'll be able to blow you assholes away. She wasn't sure how she would do that just yet. She didn't have a stockpile of bombs like the original had, though she did have enough supplies on her she could probably cobble something together if she had some time. Gonna be real fun watching you explode. Jumping away as the tree she was hiding behind began to tremble and groan, she looked back to watch as a drill made of earth carved its way through the tree and toppled it with a crash. Earth users were the worst. You're about 100 years too early to be considered a threat. Switching things up a bit, Kakuzu changes to his wind heart and readies himself to tear down the forest if need be. Non-threat she may be, even Genin could get lucky. Naruto promises herself that no matter what, Fu is getting away from these two. She probably didn't have the chakra to pull off anything crazy, but she did have a recall seal that she was supposed to use on Danzo. At the least, she should be able to pour on the damage and make sure Fu got away. Frowning at the tree behind her was suddenly cut in two, she mentally noted that this guy could use earth and wind. That didn't bode well at all. Jumping towards the ground to pick up speed and avoid another blade of wind that sheared off the branch she had been on previously, she started to dash and weave her way closer to the masked man. Getting real tired of your shit, old man. Chucking a pair of kunai with modified exploding notes, she watches as both bounce off of his skin and land on the ground. The explosion throws up dirt and debris, a cloud obscuring him from her sight, but that gave her a chance to try and rush around him towards where she could hear Fu fighting. Senses tingling, another careful shunshin carries her away as Kakuzu lands at her previous position with a downward heel strike. The ground craters for a dozen meters, and the older ninja stands calmly while ripping away the remains of his cloak. Exposing a heavily muscled but scarred upper body, Naruto is treated to the sound of his chuckles. Those weren't standard. You a seal user then? Haven't fought one of you in a long time. Maybe she was an Uzumaki? Those were always worth capturing alive, especially mature ones like her. Kuma would pay plenty, and that had his full attention now. Guess I can't let you go. Body beginning to twist and morph as he decides to get a little serious, he focuses fully on the girl before him. Funny, I was thinking the same. Rearmed with new kunai as she continued to weigh her options, her concentration is shattered by a loud feminine scream that echoes through the forest. That was Fu, she knew that instantly. Ah. Seems Haydn started that heretical ritual of his. Welp, your little friend is done for. Guess that just leaves you. Panicking and deciding to hell with it, a smoke bomb is tossed down while two clones pop into existence. Feeling herself waver for a second, she streaks away while the suicidal clones make to keep Kakuzu busy. What the hell was going on with Fu? She shouldn't be having any trouble, not with her bijou and skills. Frowning at the tactic, Kakuzu figures that Haydn has his battle well in hand. Walking calmly towards where he knew the other man would be fighting, he makes quick work of the first clone, which explodes in his face. Coughing and waving away the smoke, his black tendrils breaking out from broken portions of his body to protect him and begin healing him, he wonders if maybe there were more Uzumaki running around like this one. Blocking the second clone, which had come in with an armful of glowing seals, a squeeze of the neck dispelled it instantly. So weak. Slowly removing the spike from his leg, Haydn cackles as he watches Fu collapse on the ground in front of him. Confusion is written on her face along with pain as blood begins to seep from a wound made with otherworldly power. Haydn can't help but gloat, you dumb bitch. You're at my mercy now. And for mocking my god, I'll torture you until I'm satisfied. Moving to thrust his spike down into his other leg, he misses the enraged form of Naruto barreling his way to smash into his side. A clawed fist smashes into his face to send him further away and outside of his circle. Naruto keeps up, a second attack clawing into his back and removing a good section of spine before kicking him away into the distance. Happy he was down, Naruto turns and makes her way to Fu while idly observing the seal on the ground. Certainly not one she recognized, but one that gave her a bad feeling all the same. Dropping to her knees to assess the injured girl, Naruto probes the puncture wound. That's pretty fucking deep. How'd he get you? Unsealing medical supplies, she starts on bandaging the other woman's leg so they could get out of here quickly. I don't know. He made that circle, started screaming about his god, and then stabbed himself. Next thing I knew I was the one getting hurt. Freaking out and still unsure of just what had happened, Fu was mentally kicking herself. If she had listened to Naruto, they wouldn't even be here right now. They'd be halfway to Uzushio probably. I'm sorry. Hush, let's get you bandaged up and out of here. Taking in the information as she could, she made sure to tighten her bandage properly before turning back to the seal on the ground. Not sure how it worked at all, she stood and jogged over to erase the thing with her foot. More information to share, but no answers. Feeling more of her chakra chip away, she turns to Fu who is struggling to stand. We're getting out of here. Now. Fu nods, both sides have one injured person, that's probably the best plan now. Panting and making it to her feet, she makes eye contact with the currently red-eyed Naruto. Let's go. She'd make sure to question the girl about her eyes later. Both young women freeze as Haydn's laughter fills the air. In sync, they turn to see Haydn being carried over Kakuzu's shoulder, black threads writhing around him and stitching him back together. Well, double shit. Naruto couldn't help herself, guess she wasn't going to be left with a choice here. You thought you were gonna get away, huh? You can't kill me. I'm fucking immortal. Laughing and grunting as his spine was literally shoved back into place, Haydn nudged Kakuzu. Oi, can't you be a bit more gentle? Can you not get injured by some wet behind-the-ears teenagers? Stopping and dropping the complaining man on the ground while continuing to heal him, Kakuzu continues to focus on his prey. Should have left girl. Disgusted by the inhuman nature of their opponents, Naruto re-evaluates things quickly. Kakuzu could heal himself and apparently Haydn couldn't die and could hurt others by hurting himself. Sounded a lot like the Okame mask from the Uzumaki. If only she had one on her, she could put that to the test. Frowning, Naruto makes a pair of clones to harass the incoming men, before sliding a seal around Fu's wrist. Fu looks down at it. What's this? Reaching deep inside of herself and touching the small amount of Kurama's chakra that was within her, Naruto shook herself slowly. I've got a job for you. Can you do it? Fu nods right away, of course. Anything to take down these losers. Watching those weird threads writhe and work on Haiden was creeping her out, but Naruto looked like she had a plan finally. You're going to go away now. Find Naruto, warn him. Blinking, Fu takes a step towards the glowing Naruto. What? How am I supposed to do that? Shaking her head, Fu has a bigger problem with this plan. We're supposed to stick together. Naruto turns to her, eyes red and teeth sharpening into fangs before her eyes. I love you, you know? Thanks for all the fun. My short life wouldn't have been so much fun without you. Fu latches onto her quickly as Haiden finally begins to labor into a standing position. No. We're going together, remember, you can't leave me behind. No way. Using what little wind chakra she has to spare, Naruto circulates chakra through her body and takes hold of Fu's hand. Only one of us gets to leave this one. Sorry. Spinning once and adding wind to her, Naruto launches Fu into the air, the seal on her wrist, glowing orange. No. I love you too. We're supposed to go together. This isn't fair. Tears flowing down her cheeks, Fu tries and fails to overpower the throw Naruto used to send her away. Offering the girl a smile, Naruto winks at her. I know. And then she was gone, a flash of orange transporting her away and out of reach of these immortals. Turning back to them, body changing and becoming more feral by the second, she snarls at them. Now who wants to play with mama? Tone and voice guttural as she watches her clones try and fail to keep the men at bay. Haiden especially is furious. Twisting and turning to stretch out his back while casually destroying the weak clones, Haiden turns a twisted smirk towards Naruto. Oh, I'm going to enjoy tearing you apart, you little bitch. Denying Jashin of a sacrifice is the worst offense. It's heresy. I'll bleed you dry. Naruto give him the finger. Jashin can east Biju shit, for all I care. Mouth opening impossibly wide as dense black chakra began to gather there, the ground around her began to groan and crack. Confused by the move but ready to race forward, Haiden is stopped by a faster-moving Kakuzu who recognizes exactly what the girl was attempting to do. To think she was a Biju container as well, just their luck. What the hell, Kakuzu? You're not stopping that. Building several earth walls in front of them and detaching two of his masks to bolster their defense, he finishes with just a second to spare as the world around them is drowned out by sound and light. Ball growing to just shy of a soldier pill, Naruto can feel her body fading and takes that as the best she's going to get. Chomping down on it and feeling the full weight of it enter her and fully crater the ground around her, she gave thanks that just what she was had the answer to saving Fu. Hopefully her friend was safely back in Yuzu by now. With some more luck, Naruto would get her memories like he should. Chakra overwhelming her finally, her mouth open to expel the mini Biju Dama, everything in front of her succumbing to the Biju's wrath. Chakra burning out quickly, Naruto feels her body dissolve away. Mentally dropping into what feels like a dark pool, she hopes that it was enough. It had to be enough. Scene change, Fu is dropped harshly onto the floor somewhere she had never been before. Covered in dirt, bleeding and crying, she struggles to sit up as she looks around. She's in a temple, but no one was present and the entire area is dim. She can see light from a doorway not far away, while behind her is an altar painted with black flames. Standing with some effort and making no move to stop her tears from falling, she trudges to the door slowly while holding herself up with the wall. Naruto had asked her to complete a mission, so she was going to do so, no matter what. She doesn't make it far, collapsing again to the floor as she sobs. How can I be so weak? Punching the ground once, the pain centers her a little. How had she let this happen? She was a Biju container. She was supposed to be super strong. But she needed to be saved in the end. Worthless. Unnoticed by her, an elderly woman kneels next to her, grabbing her attention by waving a hand just in front of her face. I'm sorry, dear, but it certainly looks like you've been through a lot. Mito certainly wasn't expecting any visitors within the shrine. The only one who could teleport directly inside should have been Naruto. Curious. Fu can't help but nod to the kind woman. My friend sacrificed herself to send me to safety. 'Cause I wasn't strong enough on my own, I should have listened, shouldn't have hesitated. Mito nods, looking off into the distance, before motioning Fa not to move. Someone will be along shortly to come help you, dear. You are safe here and no one will harm you within this temple. As Mito stands fully again, unable to help the girl physically, Mito bows to her lightly. I'm sure you meant the world to your friend, so please, do not berate yourself so harshly. Believe in yourself. Fa nods, scrubbing her face with an arm to clear away the tears. Where am I? Before that, who was it that saved you? Mito did need some questions answered. She did not recognize the mocha-skinned girl before her, and she certainly was not an Uzumaki. My friend Na-chan.um. Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki. Mito smiles at that. Well, you are within the Uzumaki temple, deep within Uzushio. For you, there is nowhere on the planet safer than this. Not far away and in his office, Naruto groans as a headache of epic proportions builds on him. That would certainly be the last time he let a clone go that long before releasing it. That was several weeks' worth of memories hitting him all at once. Neji and his team on guard duty today, they worry a bit as Naruto groans again. Neji leans forward. Are you alright, Lord Naruto? Airhead-chan. Vision fading, Naruto collapses on his desk, causing everyone in the room to panic. Within his mind, while he tried to go through all of the memories as quickly as he can, there's another mind touching down in a place they had never been before. Wandering around the dank sewer of Naruto's mind, Naruto is more than a little confused. Normally when a clone dispelled, that was it. Everything was gone until they were created again from Naruto's mind. As much as she could remember, none of them had even been able to just casually wander his mind like this. Thinking it over, she pumps a fist into the air, so it's something different. Which means that maybe there's a chance to get back to Fuchan then. Better go find Naruto and straighten this out. Granted, that meant making him listen to a clone. Hopefully he would be interested enough in the weirdness of it all to listen to her. If not, then maybe she could beat his help out of him? Could she take over his body? Even temporarily? Only one way to find out, she guessed. Jogging along the sewer, she isn't brought to Kurama's chamber like normal. Ahead of her is a brightly lit area, and with no other options she runs headlong into it. Coming to a bright room, she slows to a stop before looking around. Well, great, the door is gone. Guess that's that. Sighing deeply, she figured that unless there was another way out, her only hope was Naruto summoning her by chance. I need to get back to Fu. I gotta make sure she's okay. I think you've done enough for a while. Don't you deserve some rest? A woman's voice, gentle, warm, fills the space and makes Naruto spin around. Who? Face to face with a kind woman with long red hair and wearing a green dress over a white shirt. You. She didn't know her, but yet, she did. She couldn't stop the tears already falling down her cheeks. You're. Kushina nods, walking forward and bringing the younger woman into a tight hug. You've done more than enough for your friend. Leave the rest to your big brother now. Giggling, Kushina nods as she holds Naruto at arm length to get a good look at her. I'm unsure on how this happened, but I'm happy I get to meet you, daughter. Everything that she had learned and felt over the last few weeks crashed into her. Naruto sobbed heavily while Kushina pulled her back into a tight hug, rubbing along her back while Naruto's own arms encircled her waist. I'm sorry, I. What could she say? She didn't mean to get so out of hand? She didn't mean to become a literal monster? She hadn't planned any of it? Hush. You did a wonderful job with what you had available. Sure, your coming into being wasn't planned, but hey, plenty of wonderful children come about just like that. Kushina hugged the girl even tighter. You leave it to Naruto, he'll straighten things out and figure out how to help you at the same time. Giggling and unable to stop herself, Naruto considers the entire situation just so absurd. Their mother was sealed away inside of him as well? Did that mean he could bring her back with the Shinigami mask? Would he learn that if she got summoned? No chance I get to be big sister then? You're technically only a month or two old, so no dice. Pulling away and just admiring the girl with red eyes, Kushina nods firmly once. So. I've been stuck in here for a long time with no info. Tell me everything you can, please? I want to hear everything that you've been through. Cleaning up her tears and smiling, Naruto stands before the woman Naruto should have been able to call his mother all his life. Sure thing. Let's get you up to speed. Far away at the border between the land of waterfall and the land of fire, Kakuzu frowns down at his broken but mending partner. I'm going to carve that shitty brat apart and hang her by her entrails. And that little blonde bitch shoulda gave up when she had the chance. Now I'm going to torture her for days, before offering her soul to Jashin. Tuning him out, Kakuzu has a more personal problem that has him furious. That he had to sacrifice 2 hearts for this all, because he had gotten complacent. Never again. At least we have a clue to go off of. Be patient. Hadn't they said something about Yuzushio? It was to the southeast if memory served. They'd head there first, and track down the bug user and her mysterious little friend. Chapter 57. Naruko noted that it didn't take long for her to get used to the weirdly always well-lit room that she found herself in with her mother. Kushina. Kami was that weird to say. To think the woman who gave birth to Naruto was also somehow sealed inside of him. Probably just as big of a mystery there as it was how she came to be. But, as she laid on her back, head resting in her mother's lap, Naruko told her story from when she was created till now. From torturing Danzo, to figuring out she had a sense of self, to leaving for Taki and meeting Fu. It's here that Kushina finally pokes her in the cheek. Can you tell me about her? You seemed more than a little worried about her. Kushina could tell that this Fu person must be very special to the young soul, even if she didn't realize it herself. She's an airhead, full of energy, super cheerful and willing to try and get along with everyone she can. Naruko looked away shyly. She's nice. A really good person. Too good really. Kushina giggled for a moment. Just nice? With as worried as you were, I was sure she was a bit more important to you than that. She's, yeah. More than nice. Suddenly it was the hardest thing in the world to admit that she had feelings for the mint green-haired girl. Everything had started to feel different once she was reunited with Naruto. It's hard to say it out loud, you know? Nodding, Kushina runs her fingers through Naruko's long hair. What's holding you back? Well, the same thing that had stalled her from wanting to get involved with Fu in the first place. The same thing she still struggled with since she came to realize she had her own free will. I'm not a real person. Even if I'm somehow created or summoned again, it'll just take a few good hits for me to go away again. I can't stay by her side and dash a finger flick to the forehead silenced her. Ow. Hey, what the hell? And how was she feeling pain in this place anyway? What bullshit world rules were they running here? Kushina held up her hand, prepared to unleash another finger flick of doom. Enough of that. You said that Fu told you that you're just as real as anyone else. And I happen to agree. So your currently available body is a little fragile, we can fix that. A kind smile on her face, and gently poked the younger girl in the forehead. Like, totally a promise, Kay? You're so sure about that. How? Mother's intuition. I guess. None of her memories gave her hope about that, but she'd let Kushina have hope. So, what about the rest of the world? What has happened in the last 16 years since I died? Naruko hummed as she thought about what she could or should tell her. Anything about the Konoha Council would probably piss her off to high heaven. Or Naruto's treatment in that village, or Jiraiya. Well. There were more than a few things she probably shouldn't bring up. Well, Naruto and his friends have rebuilt Yuzushio, there's a new capital city that's thriving and the ninja fortress is coming along. They've allied fully with spring, rice, and hot water. Suna is mostly there, while Konoha, and Kiri is working towards it. Iwa seems to be up to its usual antics, same with Kumo. Oh, Naruto has this weird habit of saving nations or endanger princesses pretty often. No clue how that works really. But he's strong. Really, really strong. Plus, he's started to rebuild the clan, he's picked up a few Uzumaki clan members, all women, and he's brought along a couple of girls from Konoha who are super devoted to him. Watching Kushina's eyes widen the longer she goes on, Naruko grins. Plus, there are some little ones on the way. Little ones? Yup, one from the spring daimyo, Koyuki, and the other from a woman he saved, Kotoheim. Both love him completely, and are extremely devoted. Naruko had odd feelings about having those memories, now that she and Naruto were separate individuals. Kushina nods absently. Just a moment. Gently raising Naruko's head and laying her back down so she could rise alone. Kushina takes a few steps away calmly. Naruko watches on, curious, as Kushina suddenly bursts into motion. Weird fans decorated in Uzumaki colors in her hands, she does a weird victory dance that sends her twirling and cackling back and forth. Grandbabies. Dance become more acrobatic as she jumps and flips through the air, Confetti burst from somewhere to rain down around them. My son has children coming. I'm going to be a grandmother. Oh ho ho ho. This was their mother? She was an absolute loon. Well, at least now she knew where they got the crazy from. Settling onto the floor softly and primly wiping her dress down, Kushina returns to kneeling on the floor, gently placing Naruko's head back in her lap. With a blush on her face and coughing once into her fist, Kushina looked away as she motioned for Naruko to continue. Please, what else has been happening? Guessing it was best to ignore that bit of insanity, Naruko pressed on. Well, besides Naruto kicking the shit out of the Sannin, building a bomb large enough to take out villages, and being recognized by the Toads in order to undergo sage training? I think he's been pretty busy, all things considered. Naruko reached up and gently poked the blushing woman in the cheek. Wanna tell me what that was all about? Never mind ignoring that craziness, she needed answers. It's a mother thing. Giggling, Kushina waves Naruko's odd look away. I think, all things considered, you've done so well for yourself up until now. If only one of us could have been there to guide you. Naruko shakes her head. I mean, that was all Naruto. Not me. Shaking her head, Kushina returns to gently stroking the girl's hair. I was referring to how well you have been dealing with things. Unsure of who or what you are, yet you still somehow made a friend, built a connection that you were willing to fight and die for. For how short a time you have been alive, you've done some real work in trying to improve that girl's life. Here Kushina does frown a bit. Yes, your methods leave much to be desired. Extreme to the max, I'd say. But well. Smirking, Kushina thumps her own chest once. I can't say I haven't done my own set of extreme things when it came to those I love. Kushina did her best to reassure the girl below her, while her mind wandered to other topics. Naruto actually built the seal-based bombs? That would have taken more than just her notes in order to do so. Unless he created them completely on his own, which would be worrisome. It was one of the pillars that caused some of the greatest rifts between the Uzumaki and the rest of the world. Never mind their abilities regarding sealing away the Biju or rendering enemy Biju useless. Something to think on more. Naruko was focused on what she had said in a different way. Can you tell me about some of the things you've done? She still thought of herself as a monster, non-human. Maybe hearing more examples could help ground her a bit more. Kushina nods instantly. I would be happy to pass along whichever knowledge that I can to my beautiful daughter. Looking up and thinking, missing Naruko blush, Kushina snaps her fingers. Let me tell you about the time Jiraiya peeped on some of us girls in the bath. Scene change, today found Uzushio to be humid and warm, heavy clouds floated overhead and blocked the sun, but no rain as of yet. As the citizens all continued with their day as normal, one young man was doing his best to make sense of what his brain was telling him and trying to make him accept. Groggy but awake, Naruto is trudging his way down one of the main roads, followed by a worried Karen and an irritated Jiraiya. Naruto, I'm really thinking you should return to bed. Whatever has you so worried can be checked on by someone else. Karen walked on his right side, a green Hanya mask on her face and thin green chakra covering her hand as she runs it along his spine and the back of his head. Sure, he wasn't injured physically, but he was working through some major mental strain. Any relief she could give would probably be appreciated. Jiraiya had his arms crossed as he walked along on Naruto's left. Listen to the girl gaki. This can wait, can't it? Idly, he noted how as usual, the city crowds parted around Naruto easily. He was still aware enough to keep a smile on his face and greet those that greeted him with ease. But to any ninja present, they could most likely tell that the kid was worn out. If it's that serious, I can go take care of it for you. Shaking his head, Naruto sighs with some relief as Karen's work does lessen his headache a bit. One of my clones lasted way longer than it should have, finally dispelling yesterday. It was the overload of about a month's worth of information getting dumped on me all at once that knocked me out. Jiraiya nods. So your clone did something, not bad, right? The shadow clone technique was a kinjutsu for a reason. Though the elder was sure none of the previous users ever thought they would run into this sort of problem. Granted, no one had been able to make them in the numbers that Naruto could. That was bound to cause some problems. No. Yes. It's confusing. Having a memory of his chest opening up so he could literally eat two full-grown men was more than a little disturbing. Did all of his clones have that ability? Or was that just Naruto? Just what the hell was she? Karen brought up something else. Who is Airhead-chan? Surely his clone wouldn't have somehow picked up a new girl that Naruto himself was now going to have to care for and bring into the fold without their permission. That would be a major drag. Naruto shook his head, don't know really. Still sorting through all the memories. Pretty sure though, that she is a Jinchuriki like me. From Taki. He didn't miss both Karen and Jiraiya, pausing for half a step before catching back up with him. He wished he had more complete answers for them. It's easier, you know, when I just use clones for construction or repetitive tasks. My mind filters most of it out easily. But this? It was like a whole separate person's mind was added to my own. I'm having a weird time feeling like I should look down and see tits. Karen finally lets up with her healing as she feels like she's done as much as she can. Mental feedback? Overwriting? Jiraiya shook his head. I'd think more of like, phantom body syndrome, maybe. I think the Yamanaka deal with the same thing if they have to mind walk someone of the opposite sex for an extended period of time. It'll clear up after a while. Naruto sighs and thanks the stars for that small miracle. Good. I'm very happy with my own body, thank you very much. Jiraiya thumps him on the shoulder. So where are you leading us? Motioning ahead as the road begins to clear as they start making their way to a more suburban district, Naruto notes that they are getting close to the Hataru clan compound, the Uzumaki shrine. Apparently Naruto and Fu decided to pick a fight with a couple of Akatsuki members. Fu? Naruto? Naruto nods to them both. Naruto, the name my clone took while she was on her own. And Fu, the Jinchuriki. Naruto sacrificed herself to send Fu to the Uzumaki shrine with a Hiraishin tag and the last of her chakra. And wasn't that a kicker? She was supposed to send Danzo to him, but instead decided to leave a present for Sasuke to vent his frustrations on later. Odd choice, but one that worked out for her in the end. It further highlighted that she have her own will and made her own decisions. In his head, Kurama grumbles that a version of you was able to use a Baijidama is more than a little interesting, the little monster. He meant it as a compliment, though the grumble from Naruto clued him in that it would be received as anything but. Most likely because her body was all chakra just like you would be, she could do stuff like that. Doubt I'd be able to pull that off. Not without dying. That's what I figured. Looking up as they pass the Hataru clan grounds, waving and getting greetings in return from a few of the curious aunties out making their rounds, Naruto spies the Uzumaki shrine just ahead of them. I'm taking a long nap after this. Karen nods and leans into him, you need it. She'd make sure to help him relax later, maybe with Onoka's help. Walking the rest of the way in silence, Naruto pauses as they come upon the rebuilt and cleaned up Uzumaki shrine. Built much like a temple manned by the fire monks, colored in the Uzumaki usual blues and reds, it was an imposing sight. It gave off a peaceful aura to him though, and he kept forgetting and was suddenly reminded that he needed to spend some time here in order to replace Mito with his own shade. Coming to the bottom of the steps, his group is greeted by a gently smiling Mito as she exited the shrine and bowed deeply to him. Returning her bow, Naruto begins to ascend the steps. Is she here? Fu? Mito nods. The poor dear was rather beat up and worse for wear. She's very tired, so do take good care of her. I promise. Mito stands aside as Naruto and the others reach the entrance. I don't have much energy left, your next visit might be my last. Sighing, Naruto pauses to fully face her and bows deeply at the waist. I'm sorry I've been so busy and keep putting this off. I know it's a strain for you. Mito waves him away as she begins to fade. You are doing well, young lord. I believe in you. And then she was gone, leaving Naruto and the others alone, though Jiraiya pokes him in the shoulder. Was that really Mito Uzumaki? Yup, in the well, not flesh. But you get it. Continuing deeper into the shrine, Naruto comes upon the dark-skinned and battered form of Fu. Resting as comfortably as she can against the altar, Naruto motions for the others to wait as he comes forward. Fu shakes awake, flinching at the sight of the new ninja before locking her gaze onto him first with hostility, but then slowly with some recognition. Kneeling down in front of her, Naruto offers a smile. Hey there, Airhead-chan. Tears beginning to fall within seconds, with a sob, Fu reaches forward and latches onto Naruto with all that she's worth. I'm sorry. Burying her face into his chest, she accepts his gentle hold of her as he caresses her back. I'm so sorry. Don't need to be. Everything will be alright from here on. You did well. Naruto wasn't Naruto, nor was he going to try to be. He felt more normal now that she had dispelled, but he could part with that part of him easily enough if it helped his felling Jinchuriki. No, I thought I fucked up. I wasn't strong enough. I was arrogant and thought my Biju would be enough for me. Another heavy sob racks her frame as she fists her hands into his jacket. I should have listened to Naruto. She wanted to come straight here and I. Unable to finish, Fu finally collapses fully into him as the emotional toll catches up with her. Naruto however waves away her concerns, a gentle smile still on his face. Don't need to beat yourself up so much. Naruto knew her time was limited, that she got you here safely is more than enough. Naruto pushed her away a bit and held her by her shoulders. You're here. Safe. Now we'll get to fixing things, one step at a time. Unsealing a soft cloth from a pocket, Naruto offers it to her and she accepts it easily enough, beginning to clean up her face. Thank you. Fu takes a minute to sit back and just watch the kind boy who shared her girlfriend's face. Unable to help herself, she giggles as she relaxes a bit more. Naruto was right, you are a good big brother. Chuckling and grinning, Naruto nods. Can't say I have a lot of practice with it, but thanks. Of course, now he had a whole new host of problems to deal with. Could he recreate Naruto as she was? Did he just have to rely on being lucky, or was it like summoning? Did that mean there was possibly more different versions of him floating around in his clones? Fu watches his face contort as he concentrates and mentally decides to ask the one thing she really wanted to know more than anything else. Can you? Pausing as his blue and purple eye latch onto her, Fu looks away with some embarrassment. Can you resummon Naruto? She wanted her best friend and girlfriend back, more than anything right now. Tilting his head left and then right as Karen and Jiraiya waited patiently behind him, Naruto thought hard about it. It wouldn't hurt to try after all. I'll give it a shot, I can't promise anything though. It might just be a newer variant of me after all. Fu shakes her head quickly as Naruto stands and backs away a bit. I'll know if it's my Nachan. Of course you will. Closing his eyes in order to focus, he decided he would treat it more like summoning than just making a clone. Actually making the cross seal with his hands to help focus, he begins to well up chakra while poking around in his mind. Deep within him, Kushina and Naruto look up as a tone rings loudly around them, much like a bell. Kushina sighs, while Naruto watches her with some confusion. What was that? Kushina helps the girl stand, coming up herself and bringing her daughter in for one last hug. I wish I had more time. I have so much to tell you and Naruto. So many things to explain to you. Naruto felt herself becoming lighter and started to understand what was happening. He figured it out. Something like that. Kushina held her hands as her body slowly became less and less corporeal. In the lower levels of the temple, there is a tome there detailing a long and bloody history of the Uzumaki. Find it with Naruto's help, and you may just find some answers there. Nodding, Naruto squeezed Kushina's hands. Thanks, Mom. For everything. I hope I get to see you again. Not until you're old and gray, young lady. Make sure of that, okay? You and your reckless brother. Watching Naruto fade away, Kushina sighed and wiped away her tears. Happy that she got to share her feelings with even just a version of her child, it was more than enough, and maybe, more than she deserved. Appearing within the Uzumaki shrine, Naruto stumbles and with a start realizes that she's more complete than before. What the? Her mental holes were gone, she could remember not just Naruto's life, but her own after she had gained independence. She didn't need to hunt around to figure out her emotions or feelings, it was all here. Sure, she still had no clue what she was, but time could fix that. Looking around quickly and catching sight of Naruto grinning at her, she ignored him in her search for Fu. Fu. Said girl was already flying, spearing her in the middle, before latching on with arms and legs to hug with other girl with all her might. Fu. Taking control quickly, Naruto kissed the girl she was in love with happily and deeply. Watching on from the sidelines as the two girls assured each other that they were alive and in one piece for the most part, he looked away as things devolved into a crying-filled make-out session. This lets him catch Jiraiya whipping out his book, pencil scratching away as he made notes, and giggled. Really? Now? Inspiration comes in all forms, apprentice. That the boy's clone could become this. Surely this opened so many possibilities for the future. I mean. Naruto did nudge him once, hard. Technically that's my sister? So weird. Shrugging and ignoring him, Jiraiya keeps writing, not like she's given me an ultimatum yet, so I'm free and clear. From where they had collapsed into each other's arms and sitting on the floor, Naruto doesn't look but gives Jiraiya the finger anyway. I'll rip your balls off and stuff em up your ass, pervy sage. Book disappearing, Jiraiya grumbles, no respect at all. Kurama laughed up a storm in Naruto's head. I like her. Of course you do. Standing again and helping Fu up, Naruto turns to face everyone present. Both girls held the other's hand tightly, refusing to let the other go. Looking at Naruto nervously, she presses on with some silent encouragement from Fu, thanks. You know? For bringing me back. I'm not really human, and you don't owe me anything and stepping forward, Naruto calmly chops the stressed out girl in the forehead, chill out. Your airhead-chan wanted your big brother's approval, so this was the least that I could do. Fu can't help but pout, I'm not an airhead. She was summarily ignored by the newly minted Uzumaki siblings. Naruto sighs heavily and releases some of the tension that had built up in her shoulders, sure it's temporary, but I'll take what I can get. I'm still a clone after all, just a being made of chakra. Something she would need to look into now that they knew she could come and go when needed. Nodding, Naruto does agree with her, we can figure out how to give you a permanent body one way or another. Stranger stuff has happened. Jiraiya coughs into his hand to gain their attention, there's always blood clones. Dangerous things that. Seeing both blonde teens turning his way, he continues, takes some work and is a major forbidden technique. You'll have to harvest your blood over a long period of time, because you're going to need a lot of it, and a lot of chakra as well. But it'll create a real flesh and blood body, completely autonomous from you. Naruto continues to just watch the sage with a blank look, and do you know how to do the blood clone technique? No, but I'll go dig up the scroll. Konoha has a copy, I'm pretty sure. Jiraiya knew by this point, now that a solution was in sight, none of them would rest until they got it done. Guess that meant he had work to do as well. You'll also need a better handle on chakra natures, including natural chakra, yin and yang release as well. So no more putting off the toads. Karen joins in and comes up to Naruto's side as he nods quietly to the sage, we can get started in my lab as well, drawing blood every few days and storing it away for now. She happily accepts Naruto's arm encircling her waist. Bouncing in place in her excitement, Fu turns to a visibly confused Naruto, you hear that, Nachan? You're gonna get a body. Still super excited, she begins to shake the girl back and forth. Letting Fu do as she wanted, Naruto watched Naruto and the others, you're going through a lot for the life of a clone. Karen is the one to answer right away, well, you know how he is, we never hesitate to help family. And that includes you. So it's an easy choice. Naruto nods and focuses intently on Naruto, no matter how you came to be, you're here now. Searching her eyes for something and noting the immature Rinnegan there, Naruto continued, it's weird. You're a clone sure, but not completely me. There's more in you. Naruto pondered over it as he felt about her chakra, there's me, Kurama, and something else. Naruto thinks on that for a moment, so she was a mixture of chakra? Naruto and Kurama made sense. The last? Maybe it's mom? Seeing Naruto's eyes begin to widen in shock, Naruto nods, yeah, Kurama isn't the only one sealed in you. Mom's in there too. What the hell? Where is she? Kushina, you brat. Kurama began to rage as how in all these years could his last container not come and see him at least once. All her talk about filling him with love and whatnot. Bah. Naruto shook his head slowly, no way. Was it his dad then? Did he leave a portion of her in him for some reason? Was he in there too? So many new questions with no readily available answers. Naruto could see the confusion and just nodded, guess old dad left you a little gift? Not like they had played with his seal at all, still feeling like they had a long way to go before trying anything with it. Naruto eventually nods at that. Smart-ass old men leaving us with new puzzles to figure out. If he ever got the chance, he'd slug his old man one. Maybe he'd abuse the Shinigami mask just once for that. It'd be worth it. Looking up and seeing Fu continue to shake a tired-looking Naruto back and forth, Naruto walked forward and brought both of them into a hug. Getting a squeak from Fu, Naruto laughed, give me some time, I'll figure out how to make this right. Naruto nodded as Naruto pulled away, I'd appreciate it. And sorry about the weird memories. Naruto shrugged as he began to grin, don't worry about it. Just, maybe hold off on any more fun time until we figure out how to give you a permanent body, huh? Naruto winked at Fu, who was beginning to visibly blush, I'd rather not have any more memory dumps of your sex life. Please and thank you. Blushing herself, feeling shame for the first time, Naruto points dramatically at him, delete those memories. Scrub them out. Those aren't for you. How the hell am I supposed to do that? It's my brain, I can't just carve them out. Naruto rages some more, then I'll dispel and do it for you. Seeing Naruto laugh and back away, Naruto produces a kunai from somewhere. Where do you think you're going? Somewhere not getting brain shanked? Seeing the murderous look into Naruto's eyes, Naruto shrugged and decided to go for broke. You know, for such a surly attitude, you sure turn into a kitten when motivated. Jumping away and running, his laugh echoes in the inner chamber as Naruto chases him with kunai aimed to maim him. Come back here and let me purge you. A kunai left her hand and just barely missed him, but she raced on while marveling at the easier chakra control. It's your fault, not mine. Naruto didn't really know how to feel about having all of these extra memories, but he couldn't deny that Naruto had wonderful taste in women. Call it new sibling love. With a kunai. Can't we call it even, you have all my memories, right? Right? He saw a glazed look into her eyes for a moment before she shook it off and started rushing after him even faster than before, though now with a light blush. Mine are more precious, I'm your baby sister, aren't I? She couldn't let Fu figure that part out either. She didn't want the other girl getting jealous or anything. You're using that to your advantage now? No fair. Life's tough, get over it, asshole. Fu sighs and puts her hands on her hips. Can you not kill each other right after you've gotten together? Watching the Uzumaki siblings chase each other around the temple, Fu sighs and turns to the others. I sure hope this doesn't become a regular thing. She was more than happy that things worked out somehow, even if temporarily. She'd give thanks to the kami later. Hearing a scream but not able to tell which one of the two made it, she turned to the glasses-wearing Karen. Are the Uzumaki usually like this? Karen has no issue nodding right away. We're a hard-hitting and chaotic family, but tight-knit and loving. Karen walks forward to pull the other girl into a soft hug. Welcome to Uzushio and the family. Something tells me you aren't going anywhere. Karen steps back, before both are distracted by Naruto flying overhead. It's not my fault. I'm not a pervert. Flying over them next, nails now claws and eyes fully red, Naruto is grinning up a storm. I'm gonna rip those precious memories out of you. Karen, Fu, and Jiraiya flatly ignored that her mouth was way too wide and had too many teeth as well. Thinking hard on that would lead to madness, and they didn't have the energy for that today. Karen is the first to comment on things though. We've unleashed some new form of chaos on the world. Jiraiya nods. One Naruto was bad enough, but a second one? And a woman? Might just be the end of the world. Receiving a kick in the shin for his thoughts, Jiraiya watches as Naruto finally catches up and tackles Naruto. He considers that she was probably why Naruto had been so unbalanced lately, but that would be something else to figure out later. Scene change, half a world away, the Raikage is in a meeting with a faceless messenger ninja who the burly man hands over a letter to. While he was still waiting on an update from Yujito that should be coming any day now, he'd like to have a backup plan just in case. Noting the headband, steepled his hands together. The land of sky was once a good friend to Kumo, before Konoha destroyed you. It'd be best to send you off with another warning. A new nation is on the rise, one that you helped us put down. There's a chance they will be looking for vengeance, and it'd be best for you to crush them first. Emotions to the letter in the messenger's hand. The letter has the details. The Uzumaki have returned, and Uzushio needs to be crushed. Do so, and Kumo will aid you in crushing Konoha. Getting a bow from the silent messenger, waves the man away, who efficiently turns and leaves the room. Confident on his call, he summons his next appointment. Samui and her team enter next, all of them coming to attention before his desk. You called for us, Lord Raikage? Samui's voice was firm while her gaze held firm. A nods. Yujito is still not expected back for some time yet, but I have a new mission for you. Seeing them all nod, he grins. In case Uzushio fends off Sky, and in the wild case Yujito somehow fails, we'll need to get in contact with Iwa. Here he reaches into his desk to produce a small scroll that he hands to the team leader. Offering them a stern look, A continues, this letter is for the Tsuchikage alone, and you are to return ASAP with his response. Understood? They all nod as Samui slips the scroll away into her pouch. Of course, Lord Raikage. A waves a massive hand towards the door. Then get going. No time to lose here. Watching them leave, his mind turns inward. While it was almost impossible to think that Yujito could fail as the woman was specifically made to be able to pull off missions like this, he did consider the other half of the problem. That Maelstrom was a bleeding heart type, and if he got wind of Yujito's story, he'd find a way to spare her. Granted, that did give her the ability to use her some more in the future, so that was a minor plus. Groaning as he leaned back for a moment, he considered that between Sky prodding them into action and rebuilding some type of alliance with Iwa, Kumo certainly had nothing to fear from the small island nation. Worst came to worst, he'd gather up as many of the smaller villages as necessary and crush the Uzumaki just like his predecessor did. Maybe finally they could get a hold of the fabled Uzumaki hidden scroll. Scene change another world away and in his office as well, Inoki sits alone as night descends on his village after sending his grandchildren away. Troubled and thinking over his next move, he decides that he needs a bigger threat to send after this whelp who was making his life difficult. Young though the maelstrom may be, he was proving to be cunning and powerful. Inoki knew better as well, given the chance this kid was only going to become more powerful as the days pressed on. Sighing and realizing he was going to have to bite the kunai so to speak, he reached for a fresh piece of paper and a pen. Beginning to pen a letter, he decides that he's going to call in that Akatsuki group for a hit. He hadn't used them in a long time, but this was becoming their level of problem. But it didn't matter. He didn't need some new village upsetting the balance the 5 major villages had. Everyone important won, so long as their system stayed just the way it was. To break this balance would almost assuredly send the world into another war. One Inoki could admit privately to himself that Iwa might not come out on top of next time. Across the village an upset Kuratsuchi is packing and sealing away equipment. She had spent weeks patiently doing just as she was told and being chaperoned on missions, but no longer. Old man wants me on house arrest. Bah. Fuck that. I'm going to find that maelstrom asshole and put him down. She had a score to settle with the Uzumaki, and word was Uzushio was alive and well. Diplomatic channels were raving about them, newer tech and ideas, thriving economy, the works. Good for them. She had a target now. Now the question was she going to go alone or bother bringing that Suzumabachi girl again? She'd rather not spend months lost again if she could help it. Plus being alone on the road kinda sucks. Muttering to herself until she remembered that it was partly Suzumabachi's fault that she failed last time anyway. Girl even admitted that her heart wasn't in it. She didn't need that for her next attempt. Sealing everything away and deciding to travel light, she nodded and decided it was better to go it alone. She was focused this time and she wouldn't lose. Omake Isaribi was having a wonderful day, the golem were performing perfectly, she was able to ride the waves and explore the coral reefs with no issue, and now, relaxed and sunbathing on a soft sandy beach, she got to enjoy some well-deserved downtime. Dressed in a blue and orange tankini, she stretches out some more and wonders if maybe she should get back to the city. Maybe she could go get some lunch and come back for a picnic. It was a wonderfully warm day today, staying inside would be such a waste. Enjoying the warm sun on her skin, she moaned lightly and stretched. Maybe staying right here was a better idea. Not far away and trying to calm his nerves as he had been sent to check up on the Undertow leader for some reason, Gosu wandered his way along the beach that he was told she would most likely frequent. Berating himself that he hadn't made a real move on the woman, he resolved that today he would do so. Absolutely. Yes. What's the worst that can happen? She says no? I'll have an answer at least. Of course, that almost meant the crushing realization that the woman who had captured his attention all this time might not want anything to do with him outside of just being friends. That almost sent him firmly into leaving the thought alone. Steeling himself after seeing a shock of purple hair, Gosu mentally firms himself up. Can't assume the worst. Man up. Whispering harshly to himself, Gosu slaps his cheeks before loudly calling out to her. Isaribi hears the voice of her friend and jumps up, grinning and running towards him. Hey Gosu. What are you doing all the way out here? Gosu watches her, the soft-looking skin and modest chest all on display was a lot for him, and he ends up stuttering, Juju just here looking for an extremely beautiful woman, that's all. I mean. Looking for you. Yeah. Caught off guard, Isaribi chuckles and realizes with a start that Gosu had the hots for her. Mentally smacking herself as she just knew this had been going on for a while, she decides to roll with it. Uzushio was her new lease on life, wasn't it? You aren't so bad looking yourself. So you found me. Now what? Embarrassed, Gosu shrugs, I was sent to check up on you. Isaribi holds up her radio, someone could have just called me. Isaribi sighs as she considers the situation for a moment, who sent ya? Gosu starts to fold in on himself a little as he thinks on it himself, Ladies Koyuki and Kotoheim, on behalf of Lady Tayuya apparently. Lady Tayuya was one of those that no one wanted to say no to if they could help it. She seemed to work just as hard as Lord Naruto these days. She left on a mission and left instructions with the others. Isaribi sighs and turns away slightly, arms held around her middle. Meddlesome women need to leave me alone. Granted, she wasn't going to make a move herself, having just been so happy to have the freedom that she has now. Grinning at her friend and maybe love interest, she hooks a thumb towards the water. You ever been to the reef? Gosu shakes his head, not a lot of free time. Nothing but missions and patrols. Isaribi jogs towards him, grabbing his hand with a bright smile and dragging him along behind her. Today is the perfect day to do so. Let's go. Cheering, the woman decided that Uzushio was a land of fresh beginnings. Might as well make sure hers was well worth it.